Wait, don't do.
America is football. Football
America
is
is football. Football is America. And if you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. This is a moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No.
You loved it.
It's 30 to 27.
Oh!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to the stage front and center, we got Darwin, and I think this is your second time on the podcast, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if I interviewed you on my channel or on this channel, which is also mine, but I am happy to have you back. Do you remember which channel it was?
I don't. I remember though we were interviewing and I was having issues with the PC at the time and I hit like a blue screen of death just locked up.
Oh, see, I forgot about that.
The second time, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, man. And my partner, Rick, he my podcast partner, he is on his honeymoon right now. So I think the timing is great because I don't know if some of the viewers were expecting Rick to pop up, but he is still in the Dominican Republic drinking on a beach somewhere with his wife. So good on him, and great timing with the podcast. So the way I wanted to run this, you're a Ravens fan, as you can see with the hat and the shirt and the bitterness. Now, I wanted to not just like only talk Ravens, but it's going to be like, I'm sure, Ravens, Broncos focused with other aspects of the NFL naturally being a part of this. But let's just start off with like the lingering question for me. And that's why I made the title Ravens Flock at a Crossroads. Where do they fly from here? Because the Ravens had the best team in the NFL last year, arguably. They were one of the teams that was not just like beating opponents, but just dominating good teams on a daily basis. They bring in Derrick Henry after years of Lamar Jackson MVP seasons, making conference championship games as the missing piece. And it really did feel like going into that season, if the Ravens don't win the Super Bowl this year, this is going to be a major problem. Or at least go, for crying out loud. Just show up. Even if you get beat the way the Chiefs did, at least you could say that you won your conference. You were in the big game. Obviously, the Ravens lost in the conference championship game. And, wait, was it the divisional?
No, divisional to the Bills.
Right, Bills.
Yeah,
and
time we didn't even make it to the Chiefs. I wanted them, but the Bills.
Yeah, we all did. We all wanted the Chiefs, and the Bills were one of the teams I didn't want to play.
Same.
Yeah. And, turns out you and I both had to deal with that. But I want to ask you, as a Ravens fan, where do the Ravens go from here? And not just that, like, that's such a broad question, but like, how does hope get restored to the fan base going into this year where you actually believe that you have a shot? Is it possible?
I definitely think it is. I was very vocal last year telling Raven fans that I truly believed this was the best football team we fielded across the board since our 23-13 Super Bowl team. Better at some positions, a little worse at others, but I felt across the board we had it. And you mentioned like we really thought last year was our year. We had some up and downs, like the game we lost to Oakland. I think it was like week 3, week 4.
It was a weird one.
Yeah, we actually, I don't know if you know this, we started bringing back a ton of old coaches. Mid-season, Dean Pease, former Patriots defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator for us, a few other teams. They brought him back to help Zach Orr, first-year defensive coordinator for the Ravens. I think second youngest one, which is part of that turnaround for the defense in the late half of the season. But mentioning like that Super Bowl window, though, this really is the last year before there's got to be some work done. Next year, if I'm not mistaken, is they always backload these contracts, the extensions that these quarterbacks sign. And so next year is the year that his cap is going to jump to, I believe, like 70 plus million. So the Ravens will probably have to, do some restructuring or something like that to deal with it. But this really is like the go get it year for us.
And as far as like moves that could be made, do you feel like last year there was Derrick Henry? Do you feel like there's a guy or two out there that could make the difference, or is it just about getting the guys you already have to play at a higher level? And look, what's weird for me is that like getting them to play at a higher level doesn't seem to be the issue. It's getting them to play at that level at the right time. And also, the Ravens didn't have a bad game against the Bills, technically. Kind of they did. But when you watch the game, I will say, for one, I'm not a Ravens fan. I did not have a dog in the fight. If anything, I was going for the Bills because, the Jacoby Jones or
I got a lot of love for the Bills, so no hate there.
and like I just felt like you had two teams who both deserved to finally get there. I mean, it was sad that one of these, had to lose that game, but because of the Hail Mary in the AFC divisional round in 2012, I just like still haven't gotten over that. I'm not kidding.
High miracle.
The Mile High Miracle. And then you named it after our stadium. Like, I mean, it's a problem. But the thing is like, even as an outsider watching that game at halftime, I was like, the Ravens are going to come back and this will be a game. There's a 0% chance that the fourth quarter kicks off and we're like, yeah, the Bills got this. And I mean, it comes down to a drop on a 2-point conversion. And that play right there, do you like think about that? Like, how haunting was this game out of like other, compared to other losses in the playoffs?
This one haunted me because, we've all been screwed by the Chiefs and the refs a couple of times, or any team out there that ain't, this was a hard fought game. This wasn't no refs cost the game. There were calls that went both ways. It was a good game. But the fumble by Mark Andrews on the drives before the one of the things that killed me. So specifically talking about that missed catch 2-point conversion that haunts me. We've ran that play exactly more than 3 to 5 times to Mark Andrews. It generally has not gone well. And of course, looking at the snaps in that game, Likely was tight end number 1 in that game. I really would have liked Likely to have gotten that look instead of Andrews, and I truly believe Likely would have caught that ball. I played tight end myself. I played up to semi-pro. I walked on to CCU my freshman year at tight end. One of my things I've always been critical of Mark Andrews is he does what I call a double clutch catch, which means if there's contact in between, he'll drop it. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes he makes incredible, spectacular catches. But sometimes that concentration drop in a sense. And that was one of those drops that it broke my heart. I was joking. As soon as it happened, I was like, I told y'all we should have traded him.
Yeah, he doesn't, at least when you watch him, he doesn't have soft hands. It doesn't appear. It seems like catching the football is like not second nature.
He made a lot of his money in that offense doing these deep crossers where Lamar would hit him on the deep backside of the crosser, kind of like after he'd already cleared the linebackers and is heading for like that corner zone on the opposite side. And of course, Mark was so athletically gifted that he created separation just by, coming across the field. Post injury, that speed's not quite there. So he doesn't really get that separation like he used to. And it's why, again, I'm a big fan of Likely. Kolar's our tight end 3. He ended up in the top 40, I think, for tight ends last year as well. He's really great blocker. And Likely actually improved his run blocking score, I think, this year to be better than Andrews. So,
yeah, I was going to say 2 things. One, Mark Andrews is one of those pure tight ends where he can catch, he can block, he can do what old school, you would ask your tight end. Nowadays, it's kind of changed a lot where the tight end can be not even, getting into a 3-point stance, just
small, quick, almost like another
slot,
slot.
like a big, like a big slot.
That's what I made my money on in tight end. I banked on being faster than the linebackers trying to get a mix match. And then if I got matched on the safety being like 6'3", 230, 240, I got tight on me generally all day. And so if it was a linebacker, I beat him with speed. And if it was a safety, I beat him with size. It was always my thing.
That's why the tight end, I'm sure you've heard a lot of the Joker conversation.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I got a question. Why didn't you guys use Isaiah Likely more after week 1? Because week 1, if my memory is right, he had like 150 yards and almost like 3 or 2 touchdowns if he would have got that toe in.
It's really a 2-part conversation. So the first part was the offensive line was not settled last year, especially our interior play still needs to improve dramatically. At the very beginning of the season, some teams stopped Derrick Henry at the beginning of the season because they figured out we could not run inside. Our guards got no push at all. Hopefully that will change this year in a sense. So the tight ends, Andrews was literally never going out for a pass. If it was after he helped, secure the pass rush, and Likely had a little bit of that as well. So that's part of why they disappeared. The second part, Harbaugh has such what's the word I'm looking for? He
set in his ways.
He had set in his ways, and then certain veterans, he will always give them precedence. Case in point, I joke, Raheem Mostert was on our practice squad. There were running backs veteran guys that I didn't think should have been there. And we've let some really talented guys go by holding on to some veterans, which, I understand a lot of it is maintaining a certain locker room, but I feel like it has cost sometimes the development of younger players.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I was just talking about that because I was saying the Broncos not only, and this is like a 2-year sample size pretty much, but I'm like actually, I mean, the first year Sean pretty much had to use a team that he didn't want. And then his second year, he was like, okay, I tried. Nobody can get mad at me now for doing it my way. Everybody's fired. We're going to eat all this money. We're going to draft.
Still eating that Russell money.
Actually, we just started getting it back. And that's why we're making these signings that we're making this year. We could never have made last year.
I thought I saw y'all are still on the hook for $30 million this year, but at least it's still.
But it's better. A lot better.
Yep.
I'm saying
next year, you got so much money.
Yeah, next year we'll be in a great, and we're building such a great team with both hands behind our back that a lot of people wanted Cooper Kupp, and I was like listening to these Bronco podcasts, and they're like, they get these 2 guys, and they're like, if we're going all in, let's go all in. And I'm like, guys, pump the brakes. I mean, it's first off, it's Bo's second season. Which do I believe he could go to a Super Bowl? Yes, I do. He has everything to be a very successful quarterback, and quite frankly, the NFL draft analysts haven't been this wrong, about a guy that was projected in the first round.
I liked him as a first round. I messaged Brandon Perna right after they drafted him. I said,
really?
I like the pick, actually. Yeah. I told him I liked the pick. I was supposed to do a show with Perna this past season, but he had some stuff going on last minute, ended up canceling. But man, I told him I love the pick.
Dude, I would have been so jealous of you. I've been following that guy for
I just shot a message.
I never tried.
Yeah, shoot him a message, dude. He'll hit you up probably.
That would be sick.
It's super cool, actually.
I might just clip this and send it to him.
Yeah, he actually, when I was doing my draft specials I focus on third round and later, but just as I'm looking over the numbers, Bo kept flashing across as big time throws. He was one of the better intermediate passers actually in college football that year, which no one talked about. Everyone talked about his short game, but no one talked about that intermediate game at all.
Right. Then, it doesn't cancel the other out. And actually, when Sean was doing his own, because he says it perfectly. He's like, the NFL train, you got to be careful not to hop on it because it's more powerful than ever with social media. They tell you like who's good, who's not, where they should be drafted. It takes a lot of real integrity and real skill to have an internal process that excludes everything that you're hearing.
It's hard.
And I'm not saying to totally ignore it, but you need to be true to that process. And if you have to ignore it to do it, do it. But Sean was like, okay, so I got rid of all of his throws 5 yards or shorter. I told my guys, I don't want to see him. Give me everything farther than 5 yards. And it was like, he was still the most accurate quarterback 10, 15 yards downfield in the country. And those shorter,
some beauties to Troy Franklin up there in Oregon, who's also
oh
on
my
the
God.
roster.
Yeah. And
One
the
of
other
the better
thing
deep
is,
ball runners and our deep ball route guys in the draft.
yeah. And then getting Troy Franklin was huge for us because,
Ravens brought him in for a draft visit. Like, we liked him that much.
well, in those short throws, it's a lot harder to disguise your deficiency. So if you throw a deep ball, I mean, you can slow down, you can speed up, you can stay where you're at if it's a great throw, but you can kind of like help the quarterback out big time in a pro day setting.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're like getting those 5-yard outs, you either like put it on the money or you don't. Like there's not a lot of room to hide those deficiencies. So
and
like
if you miss, you always miss towards the sideline, never behind your guy.
Yeah, in Bo's incredibly accurate. And then did you hear about his backpack? Like
I did not.
So when Sean was giving him the playbook, he was like, I'll see you in 12 hours. And he said the next day you could tell he had been up all night. And, his father is a head coach and he just comes from a football family. And he was like, I could tell he was like a football nerd in a good way. Like, and he said you could also tell that he was up all night studying the playbook. But he said he had a really like very deep understanding of the playbook in 12 hours. And then finally, he said after throw like 14 the day before, Sean just left and was like, I've seen enough. And then they do this the next day in the classroom. He's crushing it. And then Sean is like, all right, one more thing. Like, you seem perfect. He's trying to find a flaw in him. He says, empty your backpack. And they go, well, what were you looking for? And Sean was like, a vice, the zins, anything that humanizes him. And he's like, he had like one of those guns that, vibrate that like athletes carry around. He had a tennis ball for his back. He had playbooks. He's like, it was all football stuff. And then they got in the car and left.
Guys that think about their recovery when the coaches aren't in their ear constantly. That's the guy you want.
Yeah. And right when him and George, our GM, got in the car, Sean looked at him and said, we can't be the only one seeing this. And sure as shit, they were. They were. Because if we did a redraft, I don't care what anybody says, Bo wouldn't go at 12.
A rookie that made the playoffs in his rookie year. Yeah, there's no way he'd be there.
And most people had us projected to be a number 1 overall pick or a number 2. Like, it wasn't just like he kind of exceeded expectations. Like, we won 10 football games. And the future looks really bright. But let's go away from Denver for a second, because I can easily just like go. I'm really
my favorite
excited.
thing about your team last year is that, like, they talked about it. There was a bunch of unsung heroes that nobody knew. You go to general football fan, name me a defender on the Broncos other than Patrick Surtain. Shit.
Yeah.
Struggle.
Right. And that defense, I mean, they are the pieces on that defense is insane. I mean, you got Nick Benito, who was actually up for Defensive Player of the Year. Nobody knew who this guy was before the season started.
I had no clue.
Zach Allen, who they brought over with Vance Joseph from Arizona, he was the NFL leader in quarterback pressures through it was like week 15. This guy wasn't even like a Pro Bowl, a first team All Pro, but the numbers say he should have been. But it's a name game. It's a popularity thing.
Oh yeah, the Pro Bowls.
But there's two versions. So there's that Pro Bowl, and then there's like the other where you're an All Pro and it's voted on by GMs and stuff. So he did make that. but there's just so much talent on the team. And the reason I bring all this up is to say that drafting players and being good at evaluating talent, very important. But what you saw from Denver, Marvin Mims in the Cleveland Browns game, when he had the 97-yard touchdown, then you go to the next week, he's got a touchdown. I went to the Cincinnati Bengals game, and that might have been the game of the year. It didn't go our way, but it was a fantastic game. But you see the catch Marvin Mims made, the 57-yarder. And by the way, that ball, they said Bo didn't have a strong arm. That was the farthest throw in the NFL since the NFL started tracking air yards.
I didn't know that.
PJ Locke was the only other guy, and it was like Bo's was 67.7 air yards or something like that, and PJ Locke's went 67.9. It was like one of those. But I remember right after that throw, I posted that, and I was like, okay, arm talent's not something that you like. You have it or you don't. That's it. So like, I don't want to hear anything about arm talent ever again, because this guy has been the narrative. I don't know where it comes from, but it just the media is so power, man. They say something and then the other people copy it, and then podcasters copy it. And next thing you know, everyone has these strong opinions that is rooted in nothing. And then when the evidence like that throw exists, people turn a blind eye to it because they don't want to believe that they've been wrong. And I'm
calling out some of the Baltimore people recently about some of the stuff they were saying last year, and now they're all 180'd on it essentially, and they gave up on a player, and now that we re-signed that player, they're like, "Oh, everybody loves him, we love him," and I'm like, "Y'all
just admit you're wrong." That's all I ask. I'm wrong all the time.
Same.
I'll say it. I'll be like, "Well, I was way off on this guy." I'm glad I was. But the reason I bring all it up is because drafting, very important. But what you saw with Marvin Mims was the other important part, developing. Denver has a great player development staff in place. So you are seeing the players like Nick Bonito, like Marvin Mims, these guys that were drafted because of their raw talent that definitely needed fine-tuning, but it's happening. The fine-tuning's happening. How many times does someone get drafted with potential and it's like, yeah, it just never worked out? Part of that's not the player. A lot of that is the staff in place responsible for teaching, coaching, developing, all of that. Also, the training staff when it comes to like minimizing injuries. That's another big thing. Like if you got a young guy that misses 2 of his first 4 years, like all of a sudden he's out of the league. Denver has their owners for 2 years in a row in the middle of the year have spent like $200,000 on brand new Kentucky bluegrass. Last year it was Bermuda grass. They own Walmart.
That's how you do it. And the beauty of you raising all these internal players too is they're hopefully going to continue just to trend up. And like we just mentioned, all of that money frees up next year. And that's like, you have almost, if I remember right, you really didn't have any free agents this year you had to take care of. Next year, that free agent list is long, but that you got all the money. So you can pay any homegrown guy. There's not going to be a lot of teams that are going to be able to outbid you in the market. So I don't expect this team to change over the next few years. It's just going to continue to get deeper, basically.
Well, yeah. And it's like, as a fan of a team, just like you, the goal is, of course, to win a Super Bowl, but like, I don't want to do it the way, like teams that buy, I was going to say LA, but like they found a way to stay competitive. And
that's just the genius of Sean McVay. 2 years ago, he entered the offseason with like 31 out of his 90-man roster as rookies, majority of them undrafted. He just coached them up and they played. Yeah. That's just an anomaly.
He might be the best in the league.
He's damn good.
He is very good, very impressive. But that's why they're like, we're all in on Cooper Kupp. And I'm like, look, like if you got a good player development thing, because once you win a Super Bowl, as you know, all of the players that are up for a contract, their worth is at an all-time high. That's why when we won was it winning the Super Bowl? No, when we went to the Super Bowl in 2013 and got killed by the Seahawks, the next year we lost so many players. One of them was our tight end. I'm
Julius
blanking.
Thomas.
Julius Thomas,
He
and
he
he
was
went to
ready to explode.
Jacksonville. Dude signed like a $97 million contract or something crazy like that.
And he had lost all his separation speed at that point. Like, he was nothing more than a red zone threat at max, a jump ball guy.
Yeah, and some of it was just like he went from playing with Peyton Manning to Blake Bortles. I don't remember. Like, that's the point. But like, anyway, once you lose all those players, right? Your goal was to win a Super Bowl. Now you lost all those players. Now what? Eventually, you're going to have to develop your players. If you have great drafting, great developing, you can let some guys go. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that you can't keep them, but you can still like keep that Super Bowl window open because you know that you are keeping talent on the field. And that's the whole goal. It's like, I would rather not like, oh, let's go get Cooper Kupp and get all these pieces. It's like, let's pump the brakes. Let's see if Luther Burden's on the board. You know, let's
that's what compensatory picks are for, and almost no team has done it better since the comp picks were introduced in Baltimore. I think we're one of 4 teams to have 4 comp picks this year, leading the NFL.
I was going to say, I think the Niners and the Rams probably are up there too.
Niners do have 4, one of them being a diversity coach, 3rd rounder. But yeah,
I had to look into that because I knew about the diversity. Now, was that implemented at the same time the Rooney Rule was implemented?
No, actually, the diversity rule is only like 2, max maybe 3 years old. The Ravens have benefited from it, and it's constantly why the. I meant to mention this. One of our former special teams coordinators used to be your interim head coach for a while before Peyton.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
We tried to rehire him specifically for game management situations.
He was our interim head coach.
Jerry Rosenberg?
Yeah. He was our interim head coach for one game.
You can go find it. We agreed to a deal with him to bring him back specifically to do nothing but game management. Those situations the Ravens have failed at. 6 rushing attempts against the Kansas City Chiefs, the fumbles, whatever.
So what, John Harbaugh can't do that?
And that's always been my frustration. If you ever watch my streams, I am so critical of him. I tweet out at the GM. I swear every once in a while they're actually listening to me because, like I said, she's tweeted back at me. We've had some conversations here and there. She's a great person. But I'll tell her, I'll be like, you need to tell John Harbaugh to use these timeouts. You should never be going into halftime with all your timeouts. Like, it's just a simple rule. These challenges, getting away from the running game, like the predictability. Like, one point I had to tweet out at them. It became very obvious that if Justice Hill entered the game, it was a pass because the numbers showed that out of like the 34 snaps that Justice Hill went into the game, it was only 1 run. And I was like, while I understand Derrick Henry's may not be a better pass catcher than Justice Hill, we're paying Henry this money. And again, if they automatically know it's a pass, like, it's not going to go well. That's how we lost the playoff game to the Chargers all those years ago at the beginning of Lamar's era. If you don't know that story, apparently it came out after the game that the way the tackles were setting their feet for the Ravens automatically was giving away if it was a run or pass, basically. So when you know if it's run or pass coming, you're going to look like Michigan's defense out there.
I heard about that, actually.
Yeah. So self-scouting upsets me a little bit on that.
Yeah, it's like that scene in what is that? Is that not Remember the Titans, where he gets down in a 3-point stance? Oh no, that's Invincible. He's like, you see the red in my fingers? That's the blood. That means I'm like leaning back. He's like, you see the white? All my pressure is going forward. So, there's little tricks like that, but at this point, you should
exactly like
yeah.
If I could see it at home or we know what's going on, like that's what kills coaches me. That are getting paid millions to.
Yeah, that's what kills me. I say the same thing. If I can see it, how does this guy not see it? And speaking of, was it the Ravens Bills game? I had a serious problem with the Bills because they were up big in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. It was like, what was it, 20? 4-3 or something like that.
I have the notes on that game. Oh yeah, they Ravens were tipping their hand in that game. I always keep notes generally of like my games that I call and everything. Basically, anytime number 18 entered the game for the Ravens, it was an automatic run tip, and the Bills picked up on it extremely quickly.
Well, the thing that bothered me the most was Sean McDermott, because he was like letting the clock wind all the way down, and then I think they took like a couple of sacks. The Bills refused to call their timeouts. Then they got a BS pass interference call on 3rd down that was way downfield. I think it was in the end zone. It put the ball in the 1, I think. And he got bailed out of that whole situation because of the penalty. But I'm like, why are you taking your foot off the gas? Like, you got your timeouts. You're almost at the 50-yard line. There was like 45 seconds left in the half. And you're just like running the clock out. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? Why wouldn't you try to get more points? The pass interference thing, they ended up getting a touchdown, so no one talks about it.
Exactly. That's one of my frustrations with Harbaugh is when things eventually work out because Lamar makes his magic happen in the 4th quarter, everybody forgets about all of those problems throughout the game.
Yeah, I hate that. All right.
I have another thing on that game, by the way,
Yeah.
on my notes. The Josh Allen was literally calling out loud where they were going to go with the ball on plays. Several times he would call out 40-40, aka Malik Harrison, who's now with the Steelers. Including, I have it marked on the 40-yard touchdown run, or whatever, the long touchdown run. They literally called where they were going, pulled the guard towards 40, and ran it down our throats while telling us where they were going to run it. And that was so unacceptable to me watching that game. Like I said, that's why I was heartbroken, because we just got our face kicked in a sense. And then Lamar, every game we had to win, Lamar had to play at an MVP level in a certain sense. Like it was so frustrating this year. The run game was not where it was supposed to be. The pass blocking was sus. Underutilization of certain receivers. But sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, and they were just the more physical team for a large portion of the game. I mean, I think the 4th quarter, the Ravens dominated pretty much, if I remember correctly. But they were bullied in the first half, and Lamar made a couple bad. I think he had a fumble, right?
Yeah. Well, the fumble, not really his fault. Bad snap, and then
that's what it was.
Tried to make a play, but I think he had some bad play before that.
There was an interception that was bad.
Exactly.
Was it a pick six?
Yeah, I think it might have been. It was bad. And that's all I was like, he had some bad plays, and that's what I talked about. If he ever, any game that we lost that season, Lamar basically threw an interception or had a bad day. Like, if he didn't play at MVP level every day, because again, the offensive line wasn't as good, the wide receivers formations weren't as great, the defense was up and down throughout the season, and we actually continued bringing in. We brought back Chuck Pagano. He's back as the senior defense assistant.
I saw that.
There's another guy back as well. We've brought back like 3 or 4 ex-coaches at this point, which they keep saying they believe in Zach Orr, but I think it kind of signals otherwise. And
is he related to Michael Orr?
No, he's not, but he is a former undrafted linebacker for the Ravens. He unfortunately had a neck injury, which basically ended his football career, but of course got into coaching kind of quickly after.
Did anybody exploit him for money to make a movie? What's your opinion on that? I say I always wait for the facts. I don't know.
I know. Have they settled the lawsuits yet?
I have no clue. I
know,
assume
it
not, because
real quick, didn't it?
Well, if they did, it didn't make news.
We'll have to wait and see what happens with Justin Tucker. I've been working on my kicking game. I literally choked
together though at the end of the season, right?
A little bit, yeah. It was still. I joke that they held off on releasing the stories, I feel like, and that's why he was kicking so bad, because he knew it was going to come out. But I joked with my buddy who's a moderator on my channel. He's a Ravens fan. I went to high school with. And I literally joked the day I bought my fucking kicking tee to practice kicking again, fucking the news broke on Tucker. And I was like,
You should turn that into a short.
I should actually.
In the
That'd be
Michael
really
Orr
cool.
lawsuit against Sean and Leanne TheY, a Tennessee judge terminated that the TheYs had over the Orr conservatorship.
The conservationship, yeah.
No. It says conservatorship.
Interesting.
I've never heard that word. Finding it disturbing that such an agreement was ever put in place over someone who is not disabled. The case is ongoing. Okay. So we'll have to wait. This was opened in 2023. So it has been open for quite a while. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Now, going into the Ravens off season, all right, they sign Ronnie Stanley to a 3-year, $60 million deal. Do you think it was worth it to lock him up, or should they have let him test free agency? I think this is one of those moves that is really important for the offensive line to have some kind of stability, because when we did our interview last year, that was my biggest concern, and you were like, "Nah, man, like we're good." Like I
had faith, but
you had faith.
With the two young guys, I knew it could be a problem.
But they did get it together later in the year. It looked like in the beginning of the season this was going to be a problem, and then later on they started playing, as a cohesive unit. And
Rosengarten took over the right tackle position, and then they finally gave up on the young guy at left guard and moved our six-man McCary, who of course left in free agency as well, which that's what stabilized the line in a sense, those two big moves.
Yeah. So, and real quick, just what's up to everyone in the chat? Jinja, what's up, dude? We got David Corona, Joe Stevens, David McNear, Crafty. What's up, Crafty? Darwin, I think we got a combo of your people and my people, because I'm seeing. Did you post this?
Yeah, I put it up there. I put that up.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate everybody that's in here. Hope you guys are enjoying the combo. Okay, so the Ravens just added DeAndre Hopkins to the roster this week. What do you think he's going to bring to the passing game specifically? It just kind of feels like an Odell. But you know what the problem is like we group these guys together, like Odell Beckham Jr., DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, but they're all so different and they all bring entirely different things. Like Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners in the NFL, and he is going to be a coach. He is a coach on the field. His value is tremendous, even if it's just for bringing young receivers around him to coach up. Odell Beckham, of course, he's got a lot more theatrics off the field. Like he's going to be totally different than a DeAndre Hopkins, who it might be determined to win a Super Bowl and great hands, uncharacteristic drop in the Super Bowl. But like everybody's different. And especially like Diggs, it's like once one team lets you go and then you get that new team that you go to, Houston, they let you go. All of a sudden you're in this group where you're like unwanted goods. Now, 2 years ago,
your prove it deal basically to get back.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like 2 years ago, Diggs was among many people the best in the NFL. He is not on a roster, and I haven't heard about any visits. And look, Justin Simmons, our safety, all pro. Once Denver let him go, it was like nobody wanted him for a while, and I was like, how is that possible?
Baltimore wanted him, and I was like,
he's 30. I'm like, you guys are acting like he's 34, 35. Like he just was in the Pro Bowl. What am I missing? And then they let him go, Atlanta, and he's like still a free agent. It's like whenever you get the second team's okay, but if they let you go, now all of a sudden you're in this group. And I try not to do that because that's just not the way it is. Like these guys are all different. But DeAndre Hopkins, like because he's going to his fourth team,
we're ecstatic about DeAndre, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So like, how do you feel about it? Do you feel like he's just like, whatever?
This is so much better So, like, when we signed OBJ, I've never been a huge fan of OBJ, and I told people it's whatever. I don't care how many catches he gets in the regular season. It's about the postseason, which he still didn't get any postseason catches, but that's a different story. He was actually playing through a shoulder injury, so I'm not going to hate on him too much. But DeAndre, we've been trying to get DeAndre just like Derrick Henry for years. But every time DeAndre was on the market, there was a team willing to give DeAndre a lot of money still.
Yeah.
Give him closer to 10 plus. We signed him 1 year. It's basically 5 million with up to $1 million incentive. So he can make up to 6 million. So he's ranked on PFF's overall wide receivers last year, 34th. If you take him down to 50% of minimum targets, he's ranked as the 26th best wide receiver in the NFL last year for 6 million. Oh, and the thing is, we were letting Nelson Aguilar go to free agency, who's been our veteran wide receiver in the locker room for a few years. So basically, we're just moving Aguilar out for DeAndre, which I think is a very nice little upgrade there, little bump. And I'm excited because now with Bateman, Zay, and DeAndre, and then we have a guy we drafted last year, Devontae Walker. UNC.
Tight end.
No, wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Oh, he was UNC. That's right.
Yeah, he actually had to sit out, I think, the first 4 games. The NCAA was just like everyone agreed that it was just BS that they made him sit out while they didn't make a bunch of other players sit out. But despite missing 4 games, still put up over 1,000 yards receiving, had one of the highest contested. I really expected him this past year. And I quoted this, so I was wrong on this. I expected him to give us flashes of Torrey Smith's rookie season. 4.5, 4.4 speed, kind of can go deep, a great contested catch. And he made a lot of his money at UNC deeper down the field.
Tall.
I think he got
long arms.
Yeah, he's a pretty big wide receiver, and he
huge catch radius.
Got very little snaps. Only saw a little bit of action at the end of the year, but I'm super excited to see him develop. Hopefully. This year. And then we re-signed Tylan Wallace to that wide receiver room as well, that's the guy I've been beefing with the other Baltimore Riders about. Last year, we brought in Deontay Hardy, the Pro Bowl returner for the Bills, which I said, hey, Wallace took one back to the house last year that won us the game against the Rams. I've got a clip of that one because I literally told Payo Time, who's a Rams content creator. I did a collab with him. And I told him I think the difference in this game is going to be a big special teams play because Tylan was taking over the special teams returner roles, and I've always been a big fan of him. And he took one to the house. And then that offseason, we go and sign a returner to take his job and give him almost no snaps. So I really didn't expect him to come back, but he signed the deal. And now, of course, all the writers are all back on his side again. And I'm like, y'all gave up on him last year. And Deontay Hardy was injured, barely saw it, and he's out the door this year. Like, it was a total waste of money signing. And I was very vocal about it. I didn't like it from the get-go. But like how we talked about all the writers for the team hour.
And then they just it's so annoying because this year they've already done that with Bo Nix. It's like, wait a minute, last year there needs to be a writing in between where you tell everybody how wrong you were. But
and the Ronnie Stanley thing, sorry. He signed for about $20 million a year. You can go back before this signing. I did where I do all the contract work, and I worked out the deal for Ronnie Stanley. I did 4 years, they did 3, but I was willing to pay him like $20.25 million a year, and then they signed him for $20 million right on the dot. Which the year before that, I correctly predicted that they were not going to restructure, but renegotiate his contract to reduce his cap to the number I predicted and expedite his free agency. So it's just like I'm 2-2 on that Ronnie Stanley now.
Yeah, and Devontae Walker, he was somebody last year that when I did my draft stuff, I loved him. And for those of you listening that don't know anything about him, all I'll tell you is this. He ran a 4.36 40-yard dash.
Was it 4.36 official?
4.36? What'd you say?
I didn't know it was 4. I thought it was like 4.4, but damn, it was a 4.36 official.
Yeah, he's got a 40.5-inch vertical. That's in the 95th percentile, and he's 6'2".
I was ecstatic about the pick when we got him. I think it was 3rd round.
His broad jump was in the 99th percentile.
Mm-hmm.
That is that is remarkable.
So again, Nelson Aguilar saw all the snaps that I wish Devontae Walker would have got this year.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, I feel that way about my guys, but I think sometimes there's reasons for these things that we don't see in the public eye. It might just be as simple as his understanding of the playbook. But this year, in bringing in a DeAndre Hopkins to help train him up, or just for him to see, DeAndre Hopkins is a pro's pro. I mean, just to see like what it takes to be that in this league, having that in your locker room. I was just saying this the other day. There was 2 corners that were available. One was from the Jets, and the other one was I forget where the other one, Minnesota. Okay.
Byron Murphy, he went back to Minnesota, and then I think Jerron Reed is who you're thinking from the Jets.
Yeah, it was Reed and Murphy, and I said, I think I would lean towards Reed, and he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "By the way, I was like, the Vikings must re-sign Murphy, because," and I could tell you why, but I'll leave that alone. But the reason I said Reed was because he's been with Sauce Gardner. That's it. Like if I got a guy that's been next to or close to a guy, like it's not a coincidence Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Castle, all these guys panned out, Brock Osweiler with under Peyton Manning. Like when you're around professionalism, it rubs off on you. And that is maybe what can happen with Walker, but he is his catch radius is what we alluded to. Tracks the ball well downfield, consistently runs under long throws.
I expected to see a little Torrey Smith last year from him. I really thought I was going to see it. Like that's what I thought was coming. I thought he was going to late deliver us like a Mile High Miracle type of situation.
No, never.
Officially, he only got 60 snaps last year.
Yeah, I think this year though that might go up a little bit, but yeah, on paper, man, the Ravens roster like looks amazing. But we'll keep pushing through here. Free agency is, I mean, the big part of it's over. But before the draft starts, like, what positions do you think the Ravens still need to target most? Edge rusher, cornerback, maybe something else. What do you think?
Could be interior guard. So last year we let our left guard and our right tackle go, and we got the right tackle in Rosengarten. And then we moved on from Zeitler, went to the Lions as well. So we actually lost 3 out of the 5 O linemen last year, and it showed, like you talked about. So what you were alluding to, sometimes too, what we don't see going on. We have an infamous saying here in Baltimore called Harbaugh's doghouse. And if you do something and you get in Harbaugh's doghouse, you will never see the field no matter how talented you are. One of our guards, Ben Cleveland, Raven fans were almost about to riot, especially after the loss to the Raiders, because it was that bad. And he was in his interviews. They even asked him, the Baltimore reporters were like, what's going on? Why won't he even put you in there to try at this point? And he's like, I don't know. I've done everything they asked. In the preseason, he played center. He played every position they wanted him to. He played pretty decently. We drafted him in the 3rd round 4 years ago. He is now a free agent and not coming back. His name's Ben Cleveland, a.k.a. the Mountain from Georgia. Never saw the field, and no one in Baltimore knows what he did to piss off Harbaugh, but he never saw a snap all 4 years, or really, unless he had to. Zeitler got hurt 2 years ago, and he had to fill in as an emergency, and he played at the same level as Zeitler, a Pro Bowl guard. So Raven fans obviously were very happy and excited to see him this year, and nothing. And so interior offensive line code on the edge, we have got to find some pass rushers. Owe, he gets pressures, but it doesn't get there. I think he finally got double-digit sacks this year. We've been relying on Kyle Van Noy for years now.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, though. Kyle Van Noy, love you to death. You're my inspiration for getting back in the gym. Me and Kyle are the same age. We are the same height. We are the same weight. We have the same arm measurements. We ran the same 40 time. That's watching him go sign that money, I'm like,
Yeah, it's like once you get to that age where people are like, oh, that guy is old. You're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
Hey, man,
that's me. That's me. I'm not. But you mentioned the Cleveland. They let him walk. You also got Patrick McCarry. McCarry.
Went
Am
to
I saying that?
Jacksonville.
He went to Jacksonville. How do you feel about the Ravens letting him walk?
It was time. McCary has been I truly believe to be successful in the NFL, you can't have 5 starting offensive linemen. You have to have 6. McCary has been our Swiss Army knife, about 3-year, 15 to 18 million, usually contractually, for a very long time. He's been great for us. He played pretty good, and a lot. I mean, you've got one on your team right now. One of these guards that goes
Ben
and
Powers.
yeah, another one. Ben Powers came in. He played lights out and pass prot, pretty good and run for us. Went inside the big deal. McCary kind of doing the same, and McCary has played center, guard, tackle, left and right. So
Versatile.
exactly. I will miss him, but it kind of we knew it was coming, and he's one of those guys. He probably felt like he should have been a starter, and Harbaugh never gave him the chance.
Yeah, because Harbaugh is the kind of guy too where he has a lot of class, so he's not going to air out anyone's dirty laundry. It's more of like, I know what he did, he knows what he did, and that's that.
Yep, exactly.
Marcus
but there's been a
Williams.
few guys that have. Oh yeah,
Marcus Williams, Arthur Mollett recently also were released. Do you think the secondary can hold up without him? You mentioned maybe Justin Simmons coming in, somebody that I know I messaged you this on X, but I was interested in Asante Samuel Jr. Would that be something? Maybe Justin Simmons, Asante Samuel Jr. come in for 1 year? I'm telling you, I know it feels like Justin Simmons in that group now where it's like, he's 31 years old. And I'm telling you, last year was not his best year, but new team, the
Ernest
whole,
Jones.
yeah,
There's a couple of those guys that they went somewhere, didn't, got traded, and they went back to playing great.
it was a weird situation. And also Atlanta brought him on so late. I mean, it's not like they did it at this time of the year where he had a bunch of time to get adjusted. So like, I don't think Justin Simmons. I still think he brings a lot. I think he brings more value than what he's going to get paid. So
he's just got to go to the right place, is what it is.
Yeah, I think he's going to go to the Eagles to reunite with Vic Fangio.
I can see that.
Especially after they lost CJ Gardner-Johnson
with the trade with the Houston with Kenyon Drake, which, dude, I know an Eagles fan. He's not happy with that trade. Even when I saw that trade, I have in my notes, Kenyon Drake gets bull rushed, and he was a liability on that Houston line at some points last year. So that trade, I'm scratching my head a little bit on.
The most surprising move that was made this offseason, then I got more Ravens, but it was the Texans letting their offensive
Tunsil, bro.
What's their offensive? What's his name again?
Is Brian Billick back over there, or whatever his name was, that tore up that team? Like,
do you know who I'm talking about? Their offensive.
Yeah, Laramie Tunsil.
Laramie Tunsil.
One of the best the best pass protectors in the league for the past like 5 to 10 years.
Isn't he like a part owner of the franchise?
I guess they drafted Blake Fisher, the tackle from Notre Dame last year in the 2nd round. He played a little bit last year, played really bad according to PFF. So I don't know what they're thinking. They also got rid of their offensive coordinator, who was pretty sought after at one point. Was it Callahan down there, or no?
Their offensive line was an issue.
It was horrible last year, other than Tunsil.
It
was the interior though.
Let's get rid of our tackle, our best tackle. I don't get it. That's the move. I only bring it up because you said your friend was mad about that one, but that one was really strange. So, what do you the secondary?
Marcus Williams. When we brought him over from New Orleans a couple years ago, big 5-year deal. I was super excited about it. He was one of the best guys at not letting the ball get behind him after that Green Bay play. But he at one point healthy bench. Again, we don't really know why. Sometimes his play wasn't there, but it was obviously something he was doing in the locker room that the coaches didn't like. Practice, whatever. So our starting free safety was, and again, talk about the issues we started having. they had to healthy sit him. And then we started going through it. So whenever Dean Pease came back, one of the big turns around for the defense last year was they moved Kyle Hamilton back to the free safety position, which helped shore up the defense in a sense, having him do all the communication and everything. Eventually, Ardarius Washington, who's a restricted free agent, he's been given a right of first refusal tender. They put him back there at free safety, and he's been one of our guys like Geno Stone, who, of course, signed the 3-year deal with the Bengals a couple years ago, was a 7th-round pick by the Ravens. Not elite measurables, but plays hard, nose to the football, always hustles, and it shows up. So, him and Kyle help the secondary, but the Ravens would really like to have another safety so Kyle can come back down in the box and be that joker
run
match
stopper.
piece. Yeah, he can match up on anything and everything across the middle or down low. So safety, kind of the thing. Also, Brandon Stevens signed with the Jets. Probably the most conflicted player on the entire roster for me. So, like we talked about earlier, if you're across from a really good corner, you're going to see a lot of targets. Barlin was playing lights out Pro Bowl level this year. Brandon Stevens got abused, targeted constantly. Might have had one of the worst targets, like 800 yards given up. But the thing was this: he's incredibly athletically talented. At one point, he had the lowest separation score of all DBs in the NFL with less than a yard, meaning every time the ball was caught on him, he was within a yard of the receiver.
Wow.
The problem is
great closing speed.
Exactly. The problem is he seemed to play with the wrong technique a lot. I don't know if he didn't learn it. I don't know if it's a personal issue. I don't know if it's our coaching.
What do you mean by technique? Are you talking about scheme?
No, so let me give you an example. Brian Baldinger broke down the tape of it. So I
love Baldy.
Oh, I love him. I've gone back and forth with him.
He goes on the DNVR podcast a lot in Denver. I got to go on their podcast.
Oh, that's super cool. But he was breaking down tape, and every single corner on the field was playing with outside leverage on their matchup in man. Obviously, that's usually a sign that there's a linebacker or a robber over the middle. You're funneling everyone to the middle is what you're trying to do because you have inside help. Of course, the only defensive back on the field, not in outside leverage, was Brandon Stevens, and he had his inside leverage. And of course, where did he get beat? On an out route where he had no help. And so it was just one of those ones. And then Kirk Bangford actually did a breakdown on the Ravens earlier in the year before our defense got fixed, where he just showed we were lining up so bad with the free safety having to cover the halfback on the right side of the formation. So when the halfback flares out right, he's having to cover 40 yards to come downfield and get him, basically. You're getting beat before the ball's even snapped at that point, in a sense, to any quarterback that knows how to make a read.
Right.
And so that's the stuff that, again, killed me last year, and that's why I think we brought back Chuck Pagano.
And I was going to say, that shows up on tape. So it's not just in that moment, quarterback's going to capitalize it. It's a part of the game plan.
Exactly. At that point, everybody knew, and they were killing us on it. Again,
yeah,
they beat us, or Las Vegas.
So
a lot of problems there, and we lost 2 linebackers.
See, when you said technique, I was thinking footwork, fundamentals, tackling, but it's the mental side of it.
Something that's unforgivable for me in a sense.
Right. No, same here. I'm like, dude, how do you not know where you're supposed to be?
Exactly.
With 11 draft picks coming up, the Ravens, right? They got number 27 in the first round.
Yes, sir.
What kind of player are you hoping that the Ravens use that on? Are there any specific names on your radar that you're like, if this guy's available, he probably won't be, but then again, neither was Kyle Hamilton supposed to be on the board. I remember exactly where I was when I saw Kyle Hamilton. I was at an Applebee's, and I looked at the TV and saw Kyle Hamilton was still available, and I saw the Ravens traded up, and I was like, of course they did. Well, I was like, why is it so?
That was our pick 14, our highest draft pick in 15 years.
And I just The one thing I love about the Eagles is like they don't overthink it. It's like Jalen Carter fell to 12.
Mhm.
Yes.
And they've
Nolan Smith
stocked
is
draft
available.
picks for years. Like
They just go with the highest value that's
we
available.
have a great relationship, by the way, with the Philadelphia front office. Like we are great friends with Howie in Baltimore. We do a lot of deals with them, and at one point, a good bit of their front office staff used to be former Ravens.
Yeah, I mean honestly nobody's better right now at building a team. Period.
Absolutely nailed it.
So
They
who's
nailed it.
on? Who's the guy? The Ravens are on the clock. Your guy, your guy that is your non-negotiable. Who is that?
It's really going to be a BPA. So after a certain amount of picks, a lot of these guys, like the edges, there's a lot of varying opinion on these guys. However, draft scouts think that there's like the first 50 to 60 picks, there's going to be a lot of really good talent. After that, there's going to be a huge drop off in this draft class. So stocking multiple picks in the first 3 rounds is going to be super important. I could see this being one of those years where the Ravens trade back, but Kenneth Grant, the defensive lineman from Michigan, 340-pound guy. With Michael Pierce retiring, Broderick Washington, honestly, I would have cut him to save money. We are going to need another defensive lineman. And I don't know if you've seen the play where he chased a guy down 70 yards downfield at 340 pounds.
I think I have. Yeah, it was everywhere.
Impressive. That's play like a Ravens mentality.
That tells me everything.
But we need an edge player so bad, but I don't know if there's going to be an edge there that's worth the pick.
Yeah, I get that. And this is a really good running back draft.
I think they'll take Genty, man.
Who?
Y'all are. It's going to be you or Chicago. It's going to be you or Chicago.
I wish, and unfortunately, Chicago's picking before us. But even more unfortunately,
and it makes a lot of sense. Raiders, Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Ben Johnson wants his Jahmyr Gibbs over there. Yeah. He already rebuilt the O-line just like they did in Detroit when they took over.
I think the Bears are going to get him, but I don't think he'll be available. And this just makes sense. The Raiders. This is what the Raiders do. Like they're like, we're going to get somebody that's like really good, but maybe way too high. But I don't think it would be too high. But like, that's just what the Raiders do. Like the Cowboys do this kind of stuff too. Where it's like,
they always have that surprise pick that no one's expecting.
Yeah, you're never just like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Like when the Chargers got Joe Alt, we were like, yeah, we know. Yeah. When the Broncos got Bo Nix, we all knew. I mean, but like, were you surprised at all about Bo Nix?
I really wasn't. When I saw it, it just made all the sense in the world. I liked it because Denver didn't have to move. They didn't have to sacrifice the future to get a guy that they truly believe in.
Sean called. He called the teams ahead of him, and his exact words were he would call them and be like, "Don't do anything stupid," to the teams that were ahead of him. And they said everything was going exactly the way they planned until Atlanta took Penix, and then everyone started freaking out.
Yeah,
and they were like, "Okay, everyone." So I think it was it. The team ahead of them, who was right before them, I can't remember. They were picking at 11, and I don't know. Sean called them and was basically like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And they're like, "You called us."
He's just trying to feel him out.
He's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm freaking out over here. Who are you guys picking? Damn it, just tell me." But it takes,
and that's the real game, building that rapport. Hey, you tell me, and later in these rounds, if I tell me who you're looking at. Like, yeah, let's match some boards. Hey, that guy's not on my board.
They talk. They talk. Yeah. They definitely talk.
And Chicago tried to screw us a few years ago, actually.
Well, they can even lie and be like, "Yeah, we're gonna."
That's what Chicago did. They said they were gonna submit the paperwork. They never did. But the Ravens, I think Chicago did it to them once before, so we had like our pick ready just the last second. But yeah, we don't do business with Chicago anymore because of that.
They did you dirty. How did you hear about that?
Dude, they tell us a lot of the draft stories. Like, so what happened was, of course, the clock went down to basically zero. Like everyone that watching the draft was like, what happened? And that's very uncharacteristic of Baltimore in a sense. And then like last minute, they were clearing up the details that there was a trade. But of course, later on, like I said, they follow a lot of the stuff that I love hearing the conversations that actually, like, we know for a fact there were a lot of calls for Rosengarten last year in our second round tackle. Multiple teams were calling, trying to basically convince us to trade this so they could draft him, but they weren't hearing any of it. And I love hearing all like the stories of them like calling the people. And
Me too. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like just being a part of that is so cool. The phone calls to the players, like the whole. I get excited, man. The adrenaline rush. It's like being a day trader, but actually
like the
exciting
draft
stuff is
sometimes
happening.
better than the season. I've told my friends that, like, because everyone comes in through the draft. The Ravens have built their entire franchise around the draft. It's just how been our identity as a small market team. Yeah, he likes Landon Jackson. I was the charter coordinator for the University of Arkansas. I should really like the Razorbacks. I am super critical of Razorback players. He's no exception. But yes, he's got all the prototypical size, speed, all that.
Darren McFadden. So you don't really have that guy, essentially.
At that point, it really
27 is weird. It's not
like it.
Top 10.
Recently in my mock drafts, I've taken the USC safety a lot. Emignori, pairing 2 6'4" safeties with incredible, I think between Darius Washington, Kyle Hamilton, and the safety from USC, we'd be set for a super long time. And I think it creates a lot of moving chess pieces. I also, second round picks, usually the linebacker from USC, South Carolina, Knight Jr., because Trenton Simpson didn't perform last year. We constantly rotating out linebackers, which again tipped our hand on defense. If Malik Harrison came in, they knew they could run. Case point, the Bills abused Malik Harrison. I loved him, but we couldn't stop the run unless we put him in there. And at some points, we had to actually take him as a middle linebacker and put him on the outside to stop the run, which again tipped our hands and limits our pass rush. So I'd like to see some changes in that sense. We got to get an edge, but I don't know in the first round. There's a lot of
Von Miller.
If he will sign for the right money, I'm all about it. I've wanted Von.
If he's
I really wanted Khalil Mack.
He's coming back to Denver.
Is who I truly wanted like last year.
Who?
I thought Khalil Mack. I wanted to make the trade for Khalil Mack last year. And
he's available.
I think actually the Chargers re-signed him and let Bosa go.
I saw that they were both available. Hold on.
Yeah,
because I want to get this updated because
Chargers. Yeah, they re-signed him 1 year, $18 million, Khalil Mack to the Chargers.
Okay. When did they do that?
Pretty recently, actually. It was I thought he was going to be a free agent, so
yeah,
it wasn't until like yesterday when I was
going down this list, and you got guys like Zadarius Smith, Justin Simmons, Stephen Gilmore, like your older guys that are, but like Justin Simmons, 31, he's not 34, which is a big difference.
And this is a great safe. This is a great tight end draft class. This is a great safety draft class. Honestly, this actually is verbatim the fastest wide receiver class we've ever had at the combine. They set a record for the most like sub 4.340s in NFL history. This is a super fast wide receiver class. And a lot of them aren't as small as I thought they were going to be. A lot of them have prototypical size.
Who's the best receiver in this year's draft class? I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours. All right. Wait. Okay, with the exception of Luther Burden, just because I already brought his name up and I want it to be somebody else. I want it to be like somebody that's well, then I'll ask you two questions. Who's the best, and then who's the best that's not on anyone's radar?
Ooh.
Or maybe they are on the radar, but it's more of a third round pick, kind of like Devontae Walker was a great example of this.
Yeah. So I'm getting so many mixed opinions about Tetro McMillan now. I got a sneak feeling Ohio State just puts out wide receivers, and they've got a guy. He's third on the wide receiver board, Emeka Egbuka. I got a feeling a lot of people think Matthew Golden's going to be the number one guy in this draft. Jack Beck. It's kind of hard.
I think
I got a feeling the Ohio State kid's probably going to be one of the better ones.
Do you think it could be Luther Burden though? Because you know what? Ohio State, yes, they pump out wide receivers. I was just talking to somebody about this where I was like, he was going through a team and it was like CJ CJ Stroud, then you got Garrett Wilson, I think, and then you got JSN, and there was like one more.
Oh my God. So you got JSN, of course, wide receiver. You've got Chris Olave down in New Orleans.
Olave.
You've got Garrett Wilson in New York. You've got there's another guy. Who else am I forgetting?
Is there another one I'm missing?
There's another one out there. Oh my God. Now it's gonna kill me.
What do you know what team?
Let me check here. Let's see if I can. I thought I had it.
Well, while you find that, I think sometimes whenever you got a player playing with that much talent, I call it the Alabama effect, where it's like,
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Ted Ginn Jr. technically part of that as well.
Yeah, well, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was really young at that time, right? He wasn't.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, they've got 4 first-round receivers from 2022 to 2024.
And most of them, in what, 2 of them were rookie of the year or up.
All of them are ballers, like
yeah. But the Alabama effect is like you got the best O-line in the nation, but not right now, but like 5 years ago. So then the running back goes off, and then he comes in the NFL, and he's not bad, but he's just not like Saquon Barkley, right? He's more like they
actually did a special on those Alabama
Eddie
backs.
Lacy, right?
Eddie Lacy. There was a couple of them that failed it.
Like, Josh Jacobs is maybe a little bit better than all of them, but like my whole point is when there is a player that stands out from a smaller school, I'm much more inclined to be like, what's going on over there? Who's this Luther Burden guy that, is at Missouri that has got the whole nation looking, when Penn State wasn't that great.
You got to look at Brady Cook from that same team, the quarterback coming out in this draft class.
Yeah. And they do tight ends better than anybody, probably. I mean, I think you had Albert O, who never panned out, but he was amazing in college with Noah Fant. Both went. I mean, Missouri just spits out tight ends. They got like the best tight end coach in the world over there. But like whenever a player's from not a smaller school, these are D1 schools, but just like a Missouri, a UCLA, and they are. Like, for instance, Gianti, right? Boise State. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's a good school, but it's not like Ohio State. So I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
I like those small school guys, and I especially like when I see, like, case in point, like Kansas player playing really good against it, like one of those Power 5 schools. Like when I'm doing my getting ready to like find the games I want to look at, I usually pick 3 games. I find, whatever team, and sometimes for the small schools, I pick whoever their biggest opponent was, but I usually pick their worst graded game, their best graded game, and whichever one, I average all their games, find the average, and then I pick whatever game simulates the average of their play in a sense. So I get to look at their best tape, which sometimes when I look at the best tape, I'm like, hey, that's clearly like, let me give you an example. When Trevor Lawrence came out in college and they were playing all his highlights of the draft and Sammy Watkins, because Clemson used to be wide receiver U for a while out there. DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, there was a couple other guys. That,
Watkins, Hopkins, Bopkins. like
But it was just clear that the competition that they were playing sometimes, like, it was a practice ball because the wide receiver was just running so far past the safety, and the offensive line was like we were talking about, is just so good that so like in this draft, actually, there's something to look at. So Cam Ward, for example, one of the yellow flags, which if you go back a year to his Washington State tape, it helps erase all those yellow flags. But the yellow flag that comes up in the numbers this year is if you look at his pressure rate in the pocket, I think dude only saw pressure like 28% of the time behind that Miami offensive line. Where some guys, I think actually when Bo Nix showed up, that he actually got pressured quite a bit up in that Oregon. And so under pressure was still making great throws, which again is what you need to have.
Fast processor.
Exactly. Know your system, know your read, make a quick decision. And also good eye discipline. Knowing how to look off a safety or a linebacker, so important.
That's the other part of the game that's up here. That at the quarterback position, like, you got to be able to see the field. And that was one of the things with
Iowa.
That was what did you say?
I just saw your comment.
Yeah. It was like, I totally did mean Iowa.
When you were talking about tight end, I was like, I thought that was Iowa.
I know. I was like, oh, it's the other school that's like Missouri.
Mizzou got some good edge rushers though.
That was the thing with Russell Wilson, where like everything he did was just like a second too late. It was like everything was just a little behind. And with Bo, the first preseason game I watched, I was like, oh my God, we got him. We totally got our guy. And then the next week, he scored on every possession and in the entire half. And I'm like, dude, this guy is incredible. We had like a holding penalty. It's like 3rd and 14. That used to be a death sentence if we had Russell Wilson. We couldn't overcome. Like you were saying with the Ravens, like Lamar has to be perfect. There's nothing worse than feeling like if you make one mistake, you can't compensate. Like it is a terrible feeling. And that's how Bronco fans felt forever. We were like, our defense has to play perfect. We have to have the running game going. And we just need Russ to do a couple things and not take sacks and not fumble. And that's what he did. He took 50 plus sacks.
He held the ball too long, wouldn't go with his first read, and then didn't have that playmaking ability to create and really extend the play like he used to.
And then it got in his head, and he was looking for. I always said it always felt like he was looking.
Game against us because he made an ego. He was on the 5-yard line, and he could have slid. Like he had made like a 30-yard run, got
and fumbled, right?
Yeah, and he fumbled because he tried to take on the safety, and that ended up costing the game. And I was like, that was an ego move.
Right? Yeah, and that's exactly it, because I used to always say it always feels like Russ was trying to change everybody's mind in one play. Like he was always trying to get it back. And the more he tried to do that, the further it drifted away. And with Bo Nix, like his first game, there was a holding penalty, and it was like third and like 14 or something. And he threw a dart, like extended the play, rolled out, threw a beautiful ball, and the drive, the chains moved. And I'm like, I didn't realize how few times I've seen that until now, because I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen something like this in years. I'm like, we can overcome problems. This is amazing. And I did like an emergency podcast, and I was like, guys, this is our guy. And everybody was like, dude, it's the preseason, calm down. And I was like, you know what's funny about that though? If Patrick Mahomes was out there and just dominating against preseason, folks, they would have been like, of course he did. It's preseason. But when a rookie with no expectations does it, we're like, it's preseason. So when Patrick Mahomes does it, it's like, yeah, he's so much better than the competition. But then when a rookie does it, it's like, it's preseason, so it doesn't actually matter.
They'll adapt to it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what everyone's saying this year. Oh, there's film on him now. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, there was film on him last year.
Sean Payton's smart enough to get ahead of that.
Yeah, like
Sean Payton's a damn good coach.
Have you heard his play calls? They're like 45 seconds long.
Oh my God, the double play calls he does is so fucking insane.
Yeah, the double play calls, exactly.
Oh my God.
And each one is like 15 seconds. That's why he had to give Russell Wilson an armband and just go number 4 because we kept getting delay of game penalties.
And
And
then Russ
Sean,
didn't want to wear the armband, I remember.
and then he didn't want to wear the armband. And Sean's like, dude, you guys hired me and I can't even call my plays.
Sean at that point was ready to get rid of that dude.
He was so mad. If you
gone.
guys haven't seen, check out on X, on my X page, I have on pinned on top of my page a video that I made. I do it every year before the season opening game. It's like a hype video and it tells the whole story. It's like a 3-minute long video, but it is amazing. I'm saying that humbly. It is an amazing video. But the player that I'm looking at, the best offensive tackle in this year's draft is supposed to be Calvin Banks. Will Campbell out of LSU, Josh Simmons, Armand Mimbu out of Missouri. And then down here, what is this? North Dakota State, Gray Zabel.
Yeah, Gray Zabel.
Guard
for sure.
There's 2 guys ranked in the top 8 from Texas. You got Cameron Williams and then Calvin Banks, number 1 overall.
I studied that Texas O-line last year, and the guy that who was the right tackle that came out last year got drafted, I think, 2nd round.
What out of Texas?
Yeah,
2nd round. What position?
Right.
Oh, Amarian.
Omarian,
right?
Right tackle. Texas.
Omarian, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't it Omarian?
I don't think so. Now it's going to drive me nuts.
Hold on, I got to figure this out too.
I know, right? But when I studied that that draft class, that O-line while studying him, which I think he went later than 2nd round. What round did he go?
It was no, that was a defensive tackle. It was Texas for sure.
Yes, he was the 4th best. Christian Jones.
Okay, I wasn't thinking of him. Christian Jones. What round did he go?
Beginning of the season.
What round?
Was a pick 162, so I think that's the 4th round.
Okay.
He was the 4th best lineman on that offensive line in Texas at that point. That from the center to the left side of that O-line was beastly for Texas like 2 years ago. So yeah, not surprised that Kevin Banks is the overall number 1 tackle on the board.
How would you feel if the Ravens did that at 27? Let's say they get to 27 and Cameron Williams is available. Would you rather them get a tackle or a guard? Or would you be mad if it was an offensive lineman, period?
No, I would love a guard, honestly, even though I know we've got Andrew Voorhees, the former Trojan, we came back up in this. He tore his Achilles at the combine 2 years ago. We came back up into the 7th round, took him, gave him a redshirt year. He was supposed to take over left guard this year. I thought he was going to dominate. That was one of those things I was very wrong on. But our right guard too, Daniel Falele, is a project right tackle that they made him a right guard, but he's 6'8", 380. One of the biggest, I think he's the biggest guard in the NFL. When he does get good pass block grades, it's just because they literally can't get around him. He's just physically too big. So it's not that he's playing well. So I would not be unhappy with a guard, but
last year a guard didn't go off the board until the 3rd round. It was Brandon Coleman.
Oh yeah.
Out of TCU. And then this year, the best guard is supposed to be Tyler Booker. And
I've seen him mocked to my Ravens, and I don't know how I feel about him.
Really? Well,
I've heard a lot of things about him.
It's kind of unusual when you rank. I don't know what you
also
use.
Armand Mimbo, the Missouri guy. A lot of people. Some people have Will Campbell projected to a guard because of the short arms. I don't agree with that, but Mimbo, the Missouri guy, a lot of people are projecting him into a guard.
Yeah, I mean,
one guard on the board.
The short arms thing, it's like if he's ranked number 2 in the country, it's like obviously he's overcome that. You know what I mean?
He played against a lot of great competition at LSU.
Yeah,
with guys
SEC.
that probably had the measurables over him.
Now, I gotta ask you
Yeah.
this. You got 2 quarterbacks. Last year, there was 6. This year, there's really 2. You got, as far as, like, getting picked in the or
I'm
selected in the
excited about this
first 5, all right? You got Shedeur Sanders,
one. Mhm.
a flashy guy because he comes from he comes from probably maybe the most flashy athlete to exist, Deion Sanders. There's a lot that comes with Deion Sanders. I'm a huge fan of Deion Sanders. I think Deion Sanders is somebody that you just don't not have an opinion on. You either like him or you don't like him. I like him. I
My
think
record is I'm so hot and cold on him. I love him at some points, and then I'm like, come on, Dion, like at other points. So
yeah, but like he is a lot of times attacked. Like
yes, he is.
and
Like the
people
Jackson State thing, they backed
that
out on a lot of
bothered
the
me
promises,
probably more than anything.
and they crucified him for that, or some tried to. Like,
What message does that send to other people that may want to, go contribute to
mm,
an HBU? It's like, oh, well, you can never leave, or you're going to
exactly, and
be.
especially when they supposedly failed on a ton of promises that they made to get him there, which was what, from my understanding, what happened was, which is why he really left.
And he
He's
brought a
like,
lot of those kids to
mm,
Colorado. I
mhm.
mean, no one even talks about that part and everything, the facilities, the fact that he made that like a destination school.
You have to have certain things and money there to get the TV deals. Like I know that because CCU moved up, and part of that was we had to build a bigger field with bigger stands because to have certain TV deals or be part of certain conferences, you have to have a stadium over a certain size to hold a
I didn't know
capacity.
that, but
Yeah.
that makes sense because I guess it doesn't look good on TV when you
That's
see
how
like
CCU got that money to get into the top 25. They had to upgrade their stadium, which got them a new TV deal, which also came with the new division that they entered, which again really helped the program.
money brings out a lot of evils. I mean, it's quite possible that just the money that they were losing was why people were so angry in the first place. Because Dion, no matter where he goes, man, he brings a ton of money to that place. I mean,
Mhm.
when I was in,
Which that football program, I lived in Colorado Springs,
yeah,
like
yeah,
so I lived in the area with like just
Boulder,
like yep,
they've never had this kind of hype. I mean,
never.
when I was I every year I fly to Denver for the season opener.
They
And
couldn't get invest in that team even.
this year when I went there, I love Boulder. I always go to Boulder. When I was in Boulder, I'm like in the stores and all of them say like prime time. And the best way I can explain it is just like there was a buzz in the air. I could feel the energy radiating. I never felt that. I used to go to Boulder all the time. I was like, oh yeah, there's Boulder. Don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I know not Boulder, but Colorado Buffaloes. Like, I was
Yep.
just never like.
And all the celebrities he's brought along,
I was
like
never
it's
like,
great
dude,
for
you
the
know, it'd be cool
economy.
to be a Buffalo. Never felt that way. I would love that now. I mean, even their
Mhm.
uniform, I'm like, that gold is so cool. I never even liked their uniform before Dion got there. I
That
don't
black
even.
and gold's clean.
It is. It just like I don't know. I just never. It's weird how that happens. It's like everything became cool. And I try not to be a follower like that, but it happens. Like I was.
No, I
It,
understand.
and I even bought a shirt, you know what I mean? Because I'm a Broncos fan. So, like, I'm going to support Colorado sports because a lot of the people that are also Bronco fans are very invested in that. Like one of my favorite podcasters, he's like a full-time Colorado. He covers everything Buffalo. So he gets like personal interviews with all these guys. And
Wow.
and you got Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders over there. And both of them were arguable like Heisman Trophy candidates. One of them won it. And just to think all of this happened in 2 years. The moment that changed everything for me, it was 2 years ago, Colorado versus Colorado State. It was a nighttime football game. I'm watching the game on my phone while driving. I just got out of the military. I'm driving across country and I'm watching it on my phone. And I had to pull over into a gas station because Colorado had the ball on the 1 yard line. They had like a minute, maybe, with like one timeout. I can't remember the details like that, but I remember it was highly unlikely that Colorado was going to do anything. And Shador Sanders went out there methodically threw perfect passes, extended plays. He led his team down the field in not like a fluke big play. It was in a long drive that was like very unique and special. It really felt like his the drive with John Elway. It
Like
had
a
that kind
defining
of
moment of his college career.
it had that moment attached to it. And then they scored, but then I think they needed to go for two and they got the 2-point conversion. They end up winning this game in overtime or double overtime, and like the fans stormed the field. It was in Colorado State. It's a big rivalry. It was a huge moment.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
seen minutes
said,
of that game.
right at that moment, I was like, he's got it. That's what it is. It's the thing you can't put your finger on. But a 99-yard drive, all the pressure, it's a big rivalry game. And I couldn't even tell that he was at the littlest bit rattled by this moment. And especially at the quarterback position, you need poise. And I felt like, yeah, he's gonna
He
make it.
grew up in the spotlight. He grew up with the
He
pressure.
grew up in the spotlight, best trainers, all of that. So there's a part of me that's like, I think he's gonna work out, and there's a part of me that's like, I don't know.
I'm
You
hot on
know?
cold on him too, because like, of course, he's shown that he has all the everything you need for an NFL quarterback. I know one of the knocks on him is that sometimes he will hold the ball and take the sack instead of throwing it away. And I think his first year, I think Colorado State actually accused him of doing that to inflate his accuracy numbers. But again, coachable. We can coach you to throw the ball away. Now I argued, I think it was with Kenny. I was like, now I would argue based upon the coaching he's received his entire life, he should know that. But, the thing that kills me is like, I've seen two sides of him. And one of our Philly fans actually had a theory that he was doing some of these interviews in a certain sense to try to tank his stock draft. Like he doesn't probably want to go to Cleveland if he ends up in Cleveland or something. And, maybe New York doesn't really want to have to trade up to number 1 to go get him or something. Because like,
Is that what it is? Is
have you seen some of the workouts with him and Cam Ward?
I haven't. Well, yeah, I have. And it was like, look how much faster Cam Ward releases the ball than
The thing for me was
power,
like
the speed of the football.
So Cam Ward was like, "Hey, I like to use a bad ball when I practice," and he's like, "So when I get in the game, I have a perfect ball, and it's much better."
Yeah.
Shador's like, "Nah, I don't like to do that, man. You can use my ball." And Cam's like, "Nah, I use a bad ball now and a good ball in games." And Shador's like, "That's stupid, bro. That's the stupidest thing I heard." And I'm like, "No, that's practicing how you're supposed to do it." So like some of the things I've heard in those interviews, like where he's talking back and forth with Cam, I'm like, I'm like, Shador, what are you talking about, bro? But recently I've seen some more of his, interviews now coming out from like the combine. And I love what I see. He's saying everything exactly how I think he should. So
his
really
interview recently with PFT
might have been with PFT, but the recent interviews, I love everything I'm hearing. Like, I used to do a little bit of profiling work. I love kind of like just trying to, profile people in a sense. And I've never had such a hard time penning someone down. Like,
yeah, and being in Colorado is part of it, right? Because the competition, it's like you're gonna go from Colorado, which is like somebody that you went to high school with that was like kind of good at football, could maybe go there to the NFL.
The run game wasn't there to help him out. He had to fight for that.
Yeah, no line, no running game.
That was another thing people got on Deion about. And I was like, guys, Deion said before he even took this job, it's going to take some years to get the big guys. We're not like Alabama, who's been having 5-star recruits sit for 3 years
Right.
constantly on the O-line.
Right.
It's going to take time.
And I remember when the first stream I ever jumped on, it was with those guys. I forgot their names, but there was like it was the national championship. Do you remember that?
Which one? I'm sorry.
It was Michigan and no. It was TCU and Washington State.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Or
No. I'm mixing 2 years. It was
no,
Washington
they
State.
played, TCU played
Michigan.
Yeah,
It was Washington State and Michigan, right?
No, I'm like TCU and Washington in my brain because they're both purple. They both are smaller teams that had great systems, and had great wide receivers. And then they played the big Power 5 team that had the line, and they struggled, like Michigan. And wasn't Bama the year?
No, it was TCU and Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia,
yeah, it was 65-7.
Todd Monken's one of his last games, I think, over there.
And he just extended for you guys.
Oh, I was so worried I was going to lose him, honestly.
And
we definitely keep him.
But anyway, I remember in that they were like, "What's the over? How many games does Colorado win?" And I said, and that was for this past season, and there was like one guy said 5, one guy said 6, and I said their floor is 9, and everyone was like 9. And I was like, it's year 2, right? And then next year, you look at the Lions and how many years did it take for them to get to where they were at? It took about 3. There was the 1 year where like around week 12, the Lions defense got to like 15th instead of 32. And then they started winning games and they beat the Packers in Aaron Rodgers' last game. And then going into next season, it was like the Lions are the real deal. And they had an amazing season. And then this year it was like Super Bowl. And they didn't make it. But it's about 3 years to fully turn around. Like Denver's going into year 3. There's something special for people that really know what they're doing. You got to get your hands dirty that first year and get them bought in. Year 2, they're bought in. And they start winning games. And they start expecting to win. Year 3... it's just a part of the identity of the team. And that's how I look at it, at least.
And your first draft class is finally developed. It's coming into like
yes,
their full
and that's a major point. So I guess, I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but
yeah, I want to make one more comment about the quarterbacks though in this draft class.
That's what I was going to close with. I wanted to ask you, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. Let's say you're a Giants fan, because my good friend just passed away. He is a huge Giants fan. And I just know that he would be so invested in this. So in a way, I'm invested in this because the Giants will be on the clock. And I think they will take a quarterback. And my question to you is, which one is the best? Last year, I said Jaden Daniels. I was right.
And I was with you on that. Me and Kenny and 49ers Susan thing, he was one of the guys with me that was like, Jaden Daniels is by far the number 1 quarterback in this class.
And my equivalent take this year is that the best coach in this year's cycle was not Ben Johnson. It was Liam Cohen.
Kevin O'Connell, Vic Fangio, Kellen Moore.
No. Like head coaches that just got hired.
Oh, yeah.
Like in this cycle.
Had to be.
I'm a huge Liam Cohen fan. Because look how much. Yeah, he said that so weird. I was like, I'm actually from Jacksonville. I'm from Duval. Actually, let me show you this. I was.
That's funny. I don't know if you know, I'm down here in Florida right now, actually.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm down in Fort Myers.
Where is my picture, dude? I have to show you this. Fort Myers, that's Western Florida, right?
Yep, Southwest. We're
right here.
We're in the Everglades, basically.
Look at this.
Is that you on the Jumbotron at Jacksonville?
Yeah, so Um, when I was in the Navy, I was on the P-8s. We did anti-submarine warfare. We dropped sonobuoys in the ocean, used sonar to track. One of them blew up. I mean, it was like an IED type of an explosion, like bigger than whatever you're imagining. And I was working on it, and luckily I didn't have to get amputated, but I had like a leg salvage surgery because it directly hit me. Then when the military discharged me, there was this like veteran of the game thing, and I didn't sign up for it,
I
but
hope they
somebody
promoted
signed
you,
me
by
up.
the way, whenever they were like if you got medically retired, I hope you got a promotion too.
I got medically retired, and they gave me like a medal. And I got like dental and medical and stuff like that. Um, but it was still hard, getting out because it was like
Yeah,
I trained for this job and I just like got qualified. Only SEALs and air crew get gold insignia devices, so it's like a thing. It's a major like thing of pride. And I just earned my wings, and now they're telling me like you got to get
you're
out of the
done
military.
basically. Yep. That's
And it was tough, and this made it so much better in a way because I love football more than anything.
Have you ever
And
entered the NFL Fan of the Year?
no, I
You
haven't done
should,
it.
and you should use. I'm telling you, you should talk about that and like how that moment really helped you through a dark time. And like, I'm telling you, man, I feel like you could really be the Fan of the Year for Denver next
Dude,
year.
that would be crazy. But this just to I gotta tell you this. They signed me up, so the Jaguars called me and they're like, "Hey, we would like to have you on the field as our fan of the year." And I was in Tennessee. I'm in Nashville now. And I was like, okay. So I got in the car and drove to Jacksonville. And weird enough, when I got out of boot camp, when I went to my first squadron, they stationed me in Jacksonville, where I went to high school and middle school and grew up. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I thought I was going to go somewhere new, but I went back home.
Back to your hometown.
And then when they did this, I was on the field in my airplanes. Like I said, there's only two places in the United States that they're at: Jacksonville, Florida, and Whidbey Island, Washington State. Totally different parts of the country. So I was on the field. They did the national anthem. My plane, the P-8 Poseidon, flew over as the
That's the one
flyover.
of those twin turboprops, ain't it?
Yes. Boeing 737 twin turboprops. Oh wait, no. They're just jet engine inlet. They're regular.
Okay, I must be thinking of one of the other ones.
You're thinking of the P3, which the P8 outphased. It was like
Okay.
but the P3, that thing was a monster. That thing could go through a hurricane.
I think that's where I know him from.
Yeah, the P3 Orion. This was the P8 Poseidon. And the my plane that I like flew all over deployments on does the flyover, not planned at all. Um, and then,
Wow.
I mean, this moment, like once I saw a P8 do the flyover, I was just like, you literally couldn't write this story. It was perfect. And the best part was when they put me on the Jumbotron, and I still get like, but growing up in Jacksonville, I can't tell you how many people I went to middle school and high school with and haven't heard from them in 10 years, 15 years. The standing ovation that I got was like one thing for sure. I could tell I was in my hometown. Like I could absolutely tell. And then my phone just starts boom, boom, boom. People that I haven't
Bro, is that
seen.
you?
You do. People I haven't talked to in 10 years were like, dude. One guy, I was one of my good friends, and I just stopped talking to him because, life. He was sitting 2 rows behind me, like at the game. I was like, it was just an incredible day. It was really just so special. So like, I will always like cheer for the Jags. I've been to more Jags games probably. Well, now I've officially been to more Bronco games, but for a long time, I had been to more Jaguar games. My first Bronco game was in Jacksonville. Because that's how you got to do it when you're a fan and you don't live in the town.
Hey, my
But
first Ravens one was in Carolina with
really,
Panthers.
against the Panthers?
Yes, sir. I grew up in South Carolina.
And that like kind of sucks, like being like the Jags, for me
And
growing up.
Yeah, we were just like the Jags, a small market team. So there's not like outside of the hometown, there is ain't no one like
Yeah, it would be cool if it was like Pittsburgh, Green Bay, the Niners, like just the
Dallas, New
Cowboys even.
England. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
big market teams.
but dude, yeah, he said Duval. Terrible. That's all I'm trying to say.
I agree. But I'm like, man, I'm not even like a true Floridian, and I was like, that was cringe.
So,
Like,
how long have you been in Florida?
2 or 3 years now. Basically, we were living in. We left South Carolina. I beat a property management company for like 10 times the original settlement offer over mold. And I looked at my girlfriend. I said, "Here's the deal. We either take this money, we set up a business like a childcare business here in South Carolina, or we take this money and we move out of this bad state to somewhere where we want to be." So it was between Washington State, Texas, and Colorado, and we settled on Colorado. We moved like almost blind, like drove across the country with 2 cars fully packed, both of us driving separately. Drove across the country, signed our lease, and started a new life basically in Colorado. And from there, we met our now boss who offered to move us to Florida when they moved here. So they basically offered to like give my girlfriend a very nice raise
Oh,
compared to
that's
her.
great.
And we were like, well, yeah, I told her in my professional career, I've always followed the money because
Yeah.
now, I will admit, though, every day here in Florida, we're like, we miss Colorado
Yeah,
so.
there's nothing like Colorado. I
Oh,
mean, Washington State's the same way, like the nature there. I thought Colorado was the best nature in the world.
Utah's pretty as well.
Utah I mean, the Pacific Northwest is different than
When
the
we
rest.
left Colorado, I looked at her. I said, "Here's the deal. You've got like 2 weeks before we make this move. I know there's still stuff you want to do here, and I know once we move back to the East Coast, coming back out here with like our dog and everything's going to be way harder." So we did like a road trip before we left. We went up the northern part towards Denver to go up towards Utah. Went through Utah to Zion National Park.
Oh,
Stayed there for a while. Then we were supposed to go straight to the Grand Canyon, but we were looking at the route, and she's like, if we just like go 30 minutes out of the way, we can go through Vegas. So I took the long way. I drove us through Vegas to all the way around to Arizona to the Grand Canyon, stayed at the Grand Canyon for a few days, and then came back through the southern part of Colorado, back up to Colorado Springs, and did a bunch of other stuff as well. I miss it.
dude, whenever our pilots would need to get their flight hours like training, we would be doing VFR flights, which is like when the ATC towers they have you, and then they're basically releasing their control of you. So you're like, okay, you're going into an unknown zone, so goodbye. And then when you're like 5 miles from entering it, you got to ask permission to come back into their airspace. So we would do these flights through the mountains where like nobody's watching us. There's no planes around. We did that around the Grand Canyon, and I got like the
That's
most
amazing.
amazing because our windows are huge. Like it's
Yeah.
not like a tiny, passenger plane. And we just got to I mean, we would fly at like 500 feet over the ocean. We can fly at 200 feet. I mean, you're talking
Yeah, because
like,
you got to drop the submarine, basically all the explosives and everything, and
yeah,
from that plane. So yeah, you skim right close to that
there.
surface.
Well, actually, we can fire like a harpoon or a torpedo underwater from 10,000. Yeah, well,
That's fucking wild. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I don't know how much, but we can do some shit. Like we don't have to be that low to the ground.
Yeah.
It was a really cool experience though, and it shaped me so much. Like the promotion I just got would have never gotten it if I didn't join the military.
Yeah.
No chance.
I never got to serve, but I prepped my entire life. Like I was that kid in high school doing ROTC.
Oh, you were ready.
I doubled
What
up
happened?
every single semester of high school other than my first year because I didn't take it till second. So I did 7 semesters ROTC. At my senior year, I got disqualified for a knee issue. I did 2
A
years of
P
civil
issue?
knee issue.
Oh,
Basically, I had elongated patella tendons, so they were like, "Yeah, your everything in your knee is just going to snap one day." So, and it was right at the time when they were really cracking down on the medicals and lowering the sign-in bonuses. So So I did 2 years of CAP though. I've logged flight hours in high school. I've done search and rescue, swamp search and rescue. We almost got deployed to Katrina when Katrina hit to
Wow.
help with all of that. Almost all my friends are in the military, and I'll talk to you a little bit after we end the show. But I was asking about the promotion because I got a friend, very similar story in a sense.
That's cool. So just back to
the
Shador
quarterbacks
and Cam Ward.
I really think Cam, dude, he is. It's one of those ones. He has not given me a single thing that to uncheck a box. You know what I mean? Nothing against Shador. And again, like the pressure rate thing, when he played at Washington State, he didn't have that O line. And he still balled out over there, and he showed the growth from Washington. So if I had to take the two, I'm still leaning towards Cam. They're different, and it all depends on the organization you go to. But the thing I wanted to talk about the most is the tier 2 quarterbacks of this draft class. I think it's going to be one of the best tier 2 classes we've seen in years. And I secretly think that Cam Ward and Shador didn't throw at the combine because they didn't want everyone to see how close the gap is. And some draft analysts agree with me. But like, I think day 2, we are going to see a run on these quarterbacks. Jalen Milroe, he's got every athletic tool you want. He's got to clean up his footwork, basically. But if you got O-line issues, he's your guy. Will Howard, national champion. How could you? Again, it's one of those ones. Some people are showing stuff from the combine that's a little out of context. But
why did Jalen Milroe? Why do you think he's not like a top 10 pick? Because when I was watching him play,
inconsistent with the accuracy, and it all leads to his footwork.
Didn't he have to like come in the middle of the year?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Or was he replaced?
He's got all the measurables. He could be a first round. Any of these guys we're talking about, someone could take in the first round. Absolutely. When what's funny, we were talking about the Giants, because of the man that passed away. My offseason plan, I've got notes here on the Giants of rebuilding their roster, basically. So they have some pieces over there. So like Cam Ward going there, the O-line might be better than we think. But I did the Saints. And when I rebuilt the Saints, my draft philosophy for the Saints was I was moving on from Derek Carr, but I wanted to come back and get Will Howard for the Saints at the end of the first round. Riley Leonard, I'm not as high on, but people like him for his accuracy. His knock was that he didn't have a strong arm, which is why he threw at the combine and focused on it. Jackson Dart, part of that tier 2 quarterback class. Some have him going number 3, the Ole Miss connection. Eli went to Ole Miss, Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, another Oregon guy. He threw a beautiful deep ball at the combine. I didn't like Cam or Quinn Ewers, but I think Kyle McCord, the Syracuse quarterback, just a year ago, he was at Ohio State throwing the ball. Had a great year and revitalized Syracuse. And then the last guy, Brady Cook, broke the SEC record at Mizzou for the most amount of passes without an interception. So, like, if you're looking for a system ball control quarterback, Brady Cook might be your guy. I am so excited about the tier 2 quarterbacks in this draft class. Like, I think some teams are going to find the stars.
Drew Lock.
Oh, I remember Drew Lock. Again, had all the tangibles, the size, the arm strength, but could he?
They have DJ. I'll just say the quarterback out of Florida State.
Oh yeah,
Ugali.
Yeah, another really interesting guy.
I don't think he's interesting. I think he's terrible. I did you watch any Florida State games? Like,
not a lot, but I've seen that he's just like, you want to talk about
what they
very
see in him to have him that high. I don't see it.
Yeah, but again,
but Quinn Ewers. So I'll just tell you, for me, like, the reason that I had Jaden Daniels so high last year is the number one thing that I care about the most when scouting a player is their trajectory. Where are they going? Because if they made a big jump, let's say their freshman year was okay and their sophomore year was a little bit better, but then their junior year, they made a huge step and it was like, okay, now you're like in the conversation of like second round picks, but then their senior year, they elevate themselves to like a top 5 player. I'm like, they might not be done doing that You know what I
Exactly.
mean? And
Anytime you can see progression and growth, fucking
that's
cool
my
inside.
favorite thing. And that was my favorite thing about Jaden Daniels. And I'm like, dude, he's done this
Do you
every
know the story about the VR with Jaden and LSU and Washington?
like I don't think so.
So so at LSU, they invested in a VR program from Germany. I could look up the company name, but all you gotta do is just Google, Jaden Daniels VR, LSU, Washington, whatever. But this German company was actually originally made, I think, for like baseball or basketball. No, it was made for soccer, and they adapted it to football, American football, soccer, whatever, football, whatever. But it allows them to import the entire playbook. It allows them to like use the voice of your offensive coordinator. So like of course, Jaden Daniels, supposedly his agent made it a thing that whatever team drafted him had to also go get this. LSU spent millions of dollars on this technology. So it's like a VR headset where they run through their progressions and their playbook. Now it copies the voice of your offensive coordinator. So it even sounds like your actual offensive coordinator making the calls. Then you can import every defense. You can import like the percentages, how often do they blitz, special situations. And even right now, yeah, you can look it up. Part of his daily routine is when first thing he wakes up, he gets on that VR headset. And I think it's part of why he's so good and why he's so quick with his reads in a sense. It's extremely realistic. And I think it's only a matter of time now before every NFL team has it. LSU had it first. Washington has it now. I'm going to look it up.
I don't know why. And for a while I was like, I had an idea and I was like, I don't want anyone to know about it, because I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm never gonna probably have enough money to do this, so I'll just tell anybody. I don't know why football hasn't gotten to the point
my
where
bad.
on every corner of the field there's a specialized camera, so that people that are older or people just like you and me can put on a headset and actually be on the field during a game.
They are getting there, man. That's one of those ones you need to talk about it more, because I talked about how people didn't like the broadcasters and that I thought YouTube personalities and stuff like that should get a chance. I have Ron Hill, former vice president NFL operations, business card up there. I sent that email to the NFL media, also asking to pilot some stuff. Not too long after that, the Mannings got their show. And then I sent an email to YouTube basically saying that Grossi and Perna, that YouTube should create their own ESPN counterpart, basically competitor. And then that's when McAfee got his deal in a sense as well. So you might be onto
They
something,
do
man.
listen. That the video I was telling everybody to go listen to, it's got a song that had like not that many views. It was a weird, like, it was a song everybody knew, but it was like a weird remix to it. I'm a survivor. I won't give up. It was this like remix to it. I used it on that video. The NFL used it on their playoff games. That
Dude.
same song, exactly the same. I'm like,
By the way, the name of that company is called Cognalize, a German company.
Cognalize.
Yeah.
They do that. Man, that is crazy. I was gonna say they do that too. When I was at the Wounded Warrior, I went into the Warrior Games. It's like the Olympics, but for the like Wounded Warriors, and you compete against the other branches. And there was a whole VR section for people, and the technology, dude. Like they had so many things that like you could do through these VR headsets. It's like there's levels to it. Everyone's like put it on and you got to walk the line, but there's like, it's like YouTube. Like if you're an intelligent person, YouTube's going to make you more intelligent. If you're not, it's not going to. That's like VR, the potential that it has is astronomical when it comes to this kind of stuff. And like Jaden Daniels, I didn't know that, but I'm not going to say
they've got Cristiano Ronaldo on their website as well. I'm looking at it. So Ronaldo might be using it for soccer as well.
Yeah, or he's maybe at this,
because it originally was created for soccer. So
well, he obviously got great without it.
Yeah,
but
true.
He's probably more of like an ambassador. But
Very true.
still, I mean, maybe the millions of dollars is kind of crazy, but I don't think it's just something that they would use to train players. I think it would be something that they use like specifically, hey, we're playing the Browns this week. I got all of the statistics. Shit, you can make AI give
Yep.
you all
Like
of the
they mentioned, he
statistics
struggled against blitzes. And
and
so
then
they ran a
load
whole
that.
thing just on him, and it captures your decision time. It's tracking your eye data. Like there's so much data you can pull from it to improve on.
It's scary how much data that they can pull from your mind. You know what I mean?
It's scary, like that, because they're tracking where his head is, where literally exactly verbatim where his eyes are, how quickly his eyes shift. Like
Wait until they incorporate things like this with quantum computers.
it's only gonna keep getting like more crazy. Like
Yeah. It's like we could go into that,
yeah,
but
we could go forever on that.
so um so you basically you love the day two guys.
Yeah,
Your favorite one is out of the day two guys, you said that your favorite one was Brady Cook.
I really think I haven't watched the film yet to do my draft specials, but I got a feeling when I
I
watch
have to do
him,
my draft stuff too.
like
This is like a early before because I'll come back with like very I'll have a lot of convictions in my opinions in a couple weeks. I'll just say
my,
that.
my problem is I try to focus on third round through seventh round, like trying to find like I take 5 guys
Yep.
from every position group, so I try to find one for every round in a sense that's a star. But of course, like we were doing our mock draft series that we do on Saturdays, and guys I was taking in the 6th round, month ago are now third round, second round picks in a sense. So I like
Last
to let
year
everyone set their boards and then I go find my stars.
I stream mock drafts too. So
We
like
do them on Saturdays, man. David McNiner, who's in the chat, he holds one every Saturday at like
oh
10
that's
p.m.
sick.
Pacific. Yeah, so hit him up.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
But
come on.
last year it was like the 49ers took a lot of my guys. Like Malik Mustafa, the safety.
Safety, Wake
I
Forest,
loved him.
Dominic
And
Pooney,
there's
Kansas.
something called I forget his name. It's somebody's name, but it's called Freaks List. Have you heard of this?
Oh, I think so.
Let me see if I can pull it really
His
quick.
name?
Yeah, because it's let me
They
see.
drafted him last year?
No, it's like somebody. Hold on, this will be easy.
Okay, yeah.
Freaks List. Was so it's called the Freaks List. Bruce Fieldman's Freak List. Have you heard of
Okay.
this?
I have not.
Dude, you got to check this out. Especially when you're doing your scouting and stuff like that. So for the 2025, I'm just going to see if I can pull up just one.
By the way, the Trent Sherfield signing at wide receiver for special teams, really a fan of that one for y'all.
Who's that?
Y'all signed Trent Sherfield.
Oh, yeah, out of Buffalo.
Yep, another really good special teams returner as well.
Exactly. I think maybe Marvin got too good, and they were like, I don't know if he should return. But he's made the Pro Bowl his first 2 years as a rookie, and
he was a 4.3 guy at a combine too, wasn't he? Like 4.33.
I don't think he was that fast, but he has exceptional returning skills. So Bruce Fieldman's here's like just an example of like what that would look like. And this is August 6th, 2024.
4.38 is what he ran.
Travis Hunter debuts at number 2 on his freaks list. Now this list is not just like, oh, this guy's really good. He goes through, like, let's say you're 6'5" and you run a 4.4 and you're like 280 pounds. He has like these like basically like you're just a specimen. Like Anthony Richardson would be a great example of that a couple years ago.
Yep.
For 2025, he's got
to have the safety from USC on there.
I'll tell you, because he's only released the top 10, it looks like. So he's got
There's probably the cornerback from Iowa on there, super long arms. Or
Number
Iowa
one
State.
is Nick Emanwari,
Yeah,
the
the
safety
safety
out of
from
South
USC.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Here's why. He was number 11 on the 2024 Freaks list. He's number 1 this year after putting up spectacular numbers.
He
Broad jumping.
almost maxed out the vert jump. If you didn't watch that, he was 4 tabs away from maxing the vert.
He broad jumped 11.4, vertical jump 42 inches, completed 24 reps of 225 on the bench press, squatting 565 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm told a 4.35 last year.
I said out for a first round pick and then the first round. I wouldn't be disappointed if we ended up with him.
Like, yeah, because like I love this list because if there's a guy available like that, I'm like, no. This guy, when you're that gifted, as long as you got good development people around you, like if you can get this up to those natural abilities, it is so worth the risk. In my opinion.
You were talking about Denver and coaching people up. I hate to give credit, but I give credit where credit's due. One of my favorite speeches about coaching comes from Mike Tomlin. And he talked about how he loves hearing from these coaches and that don't, in his opinion, don't rise to the mantle of coaching. So when he's hearing a scout report and scout's like, hey, he plays with his hands down low because he doesn't play with this good technique, he's going to be a 5th round pick. Tomlin says, well, so we can fix that, right? We're NFL coaches. We can fix that. That should never hurt his draft stock.
That's a very good point. I mean, unless it's like
I know what I heard him say. I was like, shit. Oh,
oh yeah, because you got that. Shamar Stewart, A&M defensive line. He's a freaks list because he ran a low 4.5 in the 40 at 280 pounds, 6'5".
Is the Tennessee edge rusher on? And so that's what I was talking
Texas
about earlier.
A&M.
The other guy, Pierce from Tennessee as well. Both those guys, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of teams have these edge rushers all over the board in the first round. Like I've seen James Pierce and Stewart going as high as top 10 picks, and I've seen James Pierce getting picked by the Eagles at 32. I've seen him compared to Brian Burns, and then I've seen, of course, him. And same fun fact, I shared this with the Niner when I was watching the combine. Stewart had a drawstring bag when he was finished his drills and was getting off the field with a Niner logo on it.
Ooh.
So my current one of my fun predictions for the Niners is that they go with a 2 first-round pick strategy. And if Stewart's there at the end of the bottom first round, because they do want, someone else over there, which didn't they just sign someone? No, they didn't.
I think they're going to sign Joey Bosa to play with his brother.
Bosa already signed actually with. Who did he sign?
Joey?
Yeah, Joey signed already.
Dang it.
Let me see. I'll find him. Bosa. Oh, there he is. Joey signed with the Buffalo Bills. That's right. They replaced Von Miller with Joey Bosa.
The Bills?
Yep. So when they cut Von Miller, they signed Joey Bosa to a 1-year, $12.6 million deal.
I can't even find Von Miller in the best available free agents list. Was he officially cut?
He's had a pretty bad drop off. I mean, it says that he is, but
well, this is going to be the very final thing, and I've set it all up to be.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I was like, I'm sorry because I'm holding. I. It's just so natural to.
But yeah, this Shamar Stewart got all the tools. He did. You can just put it all together.
Well, Travis Hunter comes in at number 4. Obviously, you got a guy playing both sides of the ball. That's amazing. But he also was clocked at 21.2 miles per hour, max speed on a touchdown, saving chase down against TCU. Then on Hunter's 81st snap of that game, in a near 100-degree heat in Texas, he displayed a closing speed of 6.9 yards per second on his diving red zone interception midway through the third quarter. That's 6.9 yards per second. Was the second fastest time on record for nearly 8,400 defensive backs in the analytic database. So he's fast. But the Travis Hunter thing, hold that. Jalen Walker, number 5.
Yeah, the Georgia linebacker and he can play. I compare him a lot to Nolan Smith because he can play any linebacker position in space that you want him to, but he also brings enough edge potential that he can be a joker kind of player for you.
Yes, he's off the ball and a great pass rusher.
Yeah.
Jordan Birch, defensive lineman, he was clocked at 20.75 miles per hour. He's 295 pounds and his vertical jump is 35 inches. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I want on my team. Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU, 6'5", 225. Then he had a 40-inch vertical, bench pressed 355 pounds.
He looked good in the drills too.
Power clean 350 and was clocked at 22.5 miles per hour. This is like, wow.
I don't know if you know, this year, I think was the first year, man, it might have been the second year. Amazon Web Services started doing next gen data on the combine. So if you go to like NFL and the combine, there's a thing called the Combine IQ. They put in these little things in their shoulder pads to track like acceleration and data and all that.
Only some players have them, right?
This year it was like everybody, and supposedly they've got the previous 2 or 3 years of data somehow. I'm guessing by comparison. But this year, the amount of data they were giving us was exceptional. And we also got speeds on drills as well. So you can go see who got the highest speeds in the gauntlet drill, who got the highest speed, and, like this and that, like varies for every single position group. I love having all the data. Like,
yeah. That I'm the same way. They're trying to put something in the football too, in the NFL.
Yep, they are for tracking.
Elijah Arroyo,
the tight end
from
Miami.
Yeah, he is supposed to be amazing. His 40s in the
Senior Bowl standout.
Low 4.5s, but he is 6'5", 250.
I don't think he actually ran officially at the combine. I think he's doing his pro day. So that 4.5.
He's expected to run
exactly.
Yeah. And then finally, I'll cut it at number 10. But you should really look at this list. It's amazing. It is Jihad Campbell, the edge out of Alabama.
Yeah. Versatile. He played a lot of special teams. He's a great leader. He could sneak into the first round, but he's going to be no later than a high second round pick.
There's like these paragraphs to explain, their position, to justify it. One of the longest ones, I won't read it. It's number 12, Tatario McMillan.
Yep.
Arizona's wide receiver. And he was clocked at 22 miles an hour almost. That's insane. But I said pause at the Travis Hunter because I wanted to close with, will Travis Hunter play both ways in the NFL? And don't say it depends on who drafts him.
I think he won't go to a team that won't let him. I am a little concerned with him staying healthy at the weight that he's at. I think he's weighed in under 190, like 180 something. That concerns me a little bit, staying healthy at the NFL, playing that many snaps. I know he did it in college. I know he did it in high school.
Different.
But exactly, man. The field's bigger. Only the top 2% of college players make it to the NFL. Everyone is that fast. Everyone runs like 4.7 or slow or faster. Like, so, I wish him the best. I hope it does, and I think he will. But if after one season he gets a big injury, the team will shut it down.
Which team is going to be drafting Travis Hunter?
I absolutely feel like New York's going to get shafted on this. They're talking about them having to trade up to number 1. I really think that 1-2 is going to be quarterback. I think we'll get one other quarterback in the top 10 potentially. Someone trying to think that they're going to pull a and
a Trey Lance.
They're hoping they're going to find their Bo Nix, but I don't know if there's going to be that guy in the first round this year. I think Travis Hunter ends up.
I'll tell you,
Las Vegas.
I think Jacksonville.
Ooh.
I think Jacksonville. I think they're going to want to because Trevor Lawrence, he's under a lot of scrutiny. He got paid last year. The Jags haven't made the playoffs now in 2 years.
Another
Doug's
team that's
gone.
got to fix their O line.
Liam
Like,
Cohen, the reason that I said he was my favorite head coach in this cycle is because I don't think anybody's done more with less. Everywhere he goes, he excels. And in Tampa, I mean, yeah, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, these are good players, but look what he did with Bucky Irving. Look at how
Bucky had one of the highest elusivity rates out of the entire draft class last year coming in.
and it
Like,
showed in the NFL. I mean, he was missed.
I'll give you a head coach to keep an eye on, man. You got to keep an eye on down there in New Orleans on my boy Kellen Moore.
Dude, Kellen Moore, I was saying I feel
Years
like
ago
he's
when
the
we were
most
looking for Todd
disrespected
Monken.
coach
Yep.
in the league. I
Yep.
just said this 2 weeks ago because I'm like,
Yep.
he thrived in Dallas. He went to the Chargers, bad head coach. Then he had to work with, who was that guy? Easton Stick all year.
Mhm.
And then when Harbaugh came in, of course, he wanted his own staff. So he goes to Philly. They win the Super Bowl.
And
It's
then he was in Dallas for a while. Dallas gave up.
Yeah,
on him.
that's what I
Jerry
was
Jones
saying.
gave up. Like at one point when Harbaugh was doing Harbaugh things, I had Grossi Posse in my channel doing a fire John Harbaugh chant. I have a clip of
Really?
it. Yeah.
But
of course, that offseason, I started looking for potential head coach, but obviously more offensive coordinator. And I ended my entire video, guys. I know it's a long shot. I know he's young, but I got a feeling about this kid because I watched him play quarterback at BYU too. Like, and now he's the head coach down there in New Orleans. And if he
He's
pans
gonna be
out
good.
there, I'm just gonna stamp the "I told you."
They're
so.
not going to be good this year.
Yeah,
It's not a 1 year thing.
I redid their roster too, just like the Giants, and because of good, I wanted to do teams that I thought were harder, and them being over the cap. I don't like
so
their
much
team.
over the cap.
I
The
do
worst
not like
cap.
it. And they pushed it even further down the year, which they keep doing. Their drafts are
They're okay. They get it like 1 star. Every
like I said,
couple.
I was ready to move on from Carr in my moves. But whatever.
Carr was looking really good before he got hurt, and
and then Olave, kid might not even play football again. He
well,
probably
and
will, but-
Carr, Gruden actually was close to Carr, and he said that I think it was on Barstool. He said that
I love
when
watching him on Barstool. Like I really
do. Well, he said that Derek Carr said that when he was like getting ready for this last season, he started doing things that he hadn't been doing in a while. So he started running sprints. He started powerlifting. He started like doing like his old college workouts and stuff. And he said, I've never felt so good. So I was
he
like,
needed to get back to that Fresno State Derek Carr.
yeah. And I was looking at that and I was like, interesting. And then the way that he started the season, I was like, yeah, he's like ready to have a good year. And then he, it didn't work out. But the reason I said Jacksonville is because Liam Cohen, if you got this lineup here where you got somebody like Brian Thomas Jr., who is star, and then you can line up, you got Trevor Lawrence, then on the other side, you put somebody like Travis Hunter. He's such a decoy. I mean, even if you even if you're like, yeah, you can't really play him that many snaps. You don't really need to. You just need him to be on the field for that many snaps. I mean, if he's out there, he has to be accounted for. And you don't know whether he's a decoy or not. But Liam Cohen is going to see somebody like this on the board and not take him when Jacksonville needs another weapon, arguably, I think, especially with Ingram being gone. Like, I don't see Travis Hunter getting past Jacksonville. I really don't. And would he play DB there? Definitely.
Yeah, which they need some DB help as well. I think they had some offensive line injuries, and ever since the shoulder injury, Lawrence has always been struggling. Then I think he had an ACL 1 year, and when you have an ACL injury, especially if it's your lead leg, you never come back that first. I have only watched one quarterback correct his mechanics in my entire NFL career.
Josh Allen.
Actually, I should look at him, but it was Tom Brady when he had that front leg. And he came back the next year. But Joe Flacco had the same injury. And Joe Flacco's next year was not as good because he didn't have that faith to put the the pressure on that front lead leg. And I know from way back in the day, Sports Science, if you remember that show, they did a whole episode on accuracy on that front leg. If it's not positioned right, can be like a 20% difference in accuracy. So which is why when they have that ACL injury, they struggle because their footwork's not the same because it's just hard to. I know Allen probably did as well. Allen actually completely changed his throwing motion. I don't know if I was saying with Kenny, Kenny was saying that Cam Ward's ball trajectory is too low when he throws it. I was telling him that that's the new style. And Josh Allen actually is one of those guys. You lower the arm angle and you use more rotational force when you throw, and it's a lot easier on your shoulder.
Of course.
And
that's why Dak Prescott does that.
He did it too. Yep. All of those guys. Josh Allen, if I'm not mistaken, went to the same guy that Dak used to redo his throwing.
Well, Josh Allen's issue was his throwing motion. He was not his release. I think it was like 0.8, maybe even almost a full second shorter from his rookie year to his second year. I mean, it was amazing because I remember watching Sunday Night Football and they actually pulled it up, like 2 side-by-side images of this year and that year and showing like the training that he went through. And it's like, he's the one that stands out to me. But yeah, I mean, it can be done. It's got to be done early. It's got to be done early. And the tap, I don't know why the young kids love tapping the ball before they throw it. It's the stupidest thing. It's like biting your nails for a quarterback. You just can't do it. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Darwin, for coming on. I got tornadoes pouring through here, so I got to get back to work in case something happens. Luckily, I live 7 minutes from work, so no big deal. But I will. I'll give you, a little time here for maybe people on my channel listening. Your socials, your podcast names, like all the goods.
I really appreciate you having on. I was so sad that our last time we got cut short because we were having, just like this time, really great conversations about it. And I really enjoy your podcast. I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
As for the socials, Darwin Raven 20s on Twitter and everything. And of course, Darwin's Raven for the channel. We've been joining David McNiner, one of the 49er content creators, every Saturday for mock drafts. And of course, we'll have the draft specials coming out soon. But I really appreciate you for having me on.
I'm going to I did anytime. Seriously. Did I write that right?
Didn't see it.
It should be on the screen under my name.
Oh yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, definitely give Darwin a follow because he's I like that you take your own notes. I like that you do your own research, and I love that you played football because a lot of the stuff that
Literally,
I can't
all of
stand.
These notebooks are just years of football notes.
Just notes and notes and notes. Yeah. That my problem is I take a ton of notes and then I
can't read it.
do an episode and then it's gone. I don't keep it, but I have a pretty good memory. But there's certain things that if you're a writer, I totally forgot I wrote this.
Yep.
And it can be really good stuff sometimes. You guys can follow me here. I mean, you're on the channel right now, but you can follow me on X at NFL with Kyle. Actually, Bill gave me that name. I was like, I don't know what to call it. Football with Kyle, or I was like, I don't know. I'll just call it Kyle. And then he was like NFL with Kyle, and I was like, sure, that it's easy. It's easy to
probably have a more football name. I originally started as like a gaming streamer, and then slowly moved to football.
Now you built too big of a name to take it back.
Like literally.
Is 20 your favorite number?
20 is a shout out to Ed Reed. It was actually one of my first jerseys that I'm
glad I asked. That's cool. Ed Reed was one of my favorite players growing up.
I truly believe that the ball skills in the NFL have dropped. While we see people that are more athletic, I feel like the instincts and ball skills aren't as sought after as much. Like, tell me when's the last time you saw safeties like Troy Polamalu and Ed Reed?
Dude, I was just about to say that. That is weird. That is
I
telepathical.
Ray Lewis, T Sizzle, Nada, Ogden, Yanda, Reed. Like I always have to make the choice, but Reed's one of my favorites. And
I saw a
I,
safety try to jump the line like Palomalu like 6 times in a row in the Super Bowl, or was that the AFC Championship
I
game?
think it was
Whatever,
against the Bills, and
or NFC.
they were like, they can't. And everyone's like, they could do that. I'm like, yeah, you didn't watch Mike Tomlin trip Jacoby Jones like 5 years ago?
Yeah, looking up at the jumbotron like he
Oh
didn't
my
know where he was at. That dude, that was so funny. I still bring that up. I say
I
people
was
don't
so
forget.
heated. If we had lost that game, dude, I would have been the most heated I've probably ever been in my life. But we won, so
Cheaters.
it all worked out.
Cheaters. But yeah, I would love to do it again.
Yeah,
But we got the draft coming up in about a month, so a
we'll
month
figure
and
something
like a
out.
week. So let's do it again. And I'm always available to come on your channel too,
Okay.
and hang out with you guys. So
Yes, sir.
once again, thanks for coming on, man. I will see you guys later. And Darwin, always a good time. Sorry, I don't know where my outro is. See ya!